Oh, there we go.
I was wondering where the video game music was going to
Fingers.
go. It's 8 p.m. It's Tuesday. It's time for Pops.
Can I point out that we started on time without Keith?
Hey.
It's true. We may not be going out to anything.
No, we are. We're live on Facebook. I'm
Live on
looking now.
Facebook. That's,
Okay.
I feel like that's good enough.
What's
That's
up,
an
Facebook?
accomplishment. This has been Popped. We'll see you next week.
Done.
Please
Check.
don't leave. Please
Actually,
don't leave yet.
we have a pretty bitchin' show. We got Miles with us.
Everybody.
Keith is doing some grown-up stuff.
Keith is off on. He's on correspondence. He's in the Middle East. I don't know. I want to make it sound fancy, like he's a big-time journalist, like Wolf Blitzer,
He's
or
you know, Wolf Blitzer did my commencement speech. It was the most discouraging thing.
and then became a coworker, right?
He did. Yeah, I guess technically. I mean, I was more of his servant, but he was human about it,
Coworker,
though.
servant. I mean, it's all the same
But
thing.
yeah, he gave my commencement speech, and he said that like he was walking down the street one day, and someone asked him to be an international correspondent, and if it wasn't for the fact that only like 2 of us in the actual like commencement wanted to go into TV journalism, like it would have been like heartbreaking because that's not how it works.
No, that's not even close to how it
I
works.
know.
I would
And
actually argue that's incredibly far from how it works.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's impossible. It's like the equivalent of finding a job offer in a box of Cracker Jacks. It just doesn't happen. So it was incredibly discouraging. But you know, I wound up writing scripts for him, so I feel like somehow that comes full circle.
There you go, coworker.
Yeah.
Does he say those scripts? Sometimes it seems like he doesn't.
The format of his show, that's like a whole different thing.
Yeah, it's true.
They all
That's
have
true.
different. Some of them like are attached to the prompter, some of them aren't. But I could go on and on and on. How are you guys doing? How was your week in pop culture?
It was my week in pop culture.
I
I'll
never
you know what?
remember what I do.
I rarely take the lead on this because I usually have to think of what I did like 2 days ago.
And it takes some time.
And
to,
it takes time.
Everybody else has to cycle through, and then
Exactly,
eventually
and
comes
then
back
I've
to
got
you.
to I've got to filter it for the audience
course.
to make sure I leave all the horrible things out that I did, so they actually think that I'm an okay person, even when I'm not.
True.
And but you know
Nobody
what?
thinks you're an okay person.
Somebody's got to.
I mean, maybe.
So I'll tell you what I did. I watched all 12 episodes of BoJack Horseman.
Mhm.
And
Oh,
then-
they just had a new season, right?
And then had a good cry at the end, and then went to Target and stared at mops.
That show, okay, the mop thing is pretty funny, but that show does it does some feeling things. You have feeling work.
Feeling things.
Yes.
If you're not familiar, it's about a horse who, back in the 90s,
Yes.
was a big TV star on
In a very famous
on
TV
a
show.
very famous TV show called Horsing Around. It's like a Full House type show.
I gotcha.
And now he's just a bitter 50-year-old horse, which makes him probably the oldest living horse, I think. I don't think horses actually live to 50, but you know.
Well,
good
if they're
on him.
animated, who knows how long they live?
Well, it's a weird watch because he's a narcissist and he also deals with really crippling depression.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably the most honest and realistic depiction of depression that I've ever seen on television. And it's all animated. There's anthropomorphic animals, but it's weird. You just accept it all. The writing is so good. Now, I will say to anybody kind of like delving into it and jumping in, you got to get past the first 6 episodes, maybe.
There are
And
a
it
lot of
took
shows
me a
that are
long
like
time.
that.
Yeah.
I feel like with BoJack, though, it might have been a case where they sold them on the concept of the show, and they gave them 6 episodes up front, and it was like Netflix was like, "Yeah, I like this. Let's give it an order," because there is such a drastic tone change
Really?
where they really get deep and dark.
It's
The
hard.
show is so dark.
It's weird with Netflix. Like they don't follow the traditional pilot process, right? So
Right.
that season was all ordered at once. They said we're going to do a season of this many episodes, and then it all comes in. There's not the sort of like lag time in that way. But I do think that they probably were like delivering scripts and being like, okay, we're doing this, we're working through this, getting
Yeah.
around this. But you can tell that what they really wanted to do, and later seasons have really reflected that, is to tell dark, echoing stories from a variety of perspectives, more complicated each time.
Speaking of complicated.
Speaking of complicated, that's interesting.
That is weird.
Well. That's all right then.
Nothing is stream the
I think
thing.
it's an internet thing.
Oh, crap.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, there we go. Okay,
We're back.
Yay, we're back.
We're back. We're back and live.
That's a really awkward pause.
Oh man.
Thank you for sticking with us. If you.
I love.
Oh, there we go. Okay,
shut
we're
up.
Yay,
No,
we're
guys,
back.
wait,
Ah,
stop. Go
really
away.
That was fun.
You have to mute that.
But yeah, very depressing program
It is.
in its own right. And I mean, it's ultimately, I would argue, about uplift and detail, but at the heart of it, it wants to rip your heart out a little bit.
It is so dark. It gets so dark. But I've never. I hate to be like, oh, that's I see myself, but like it's just as somebody who deals monthly with just depression, it's so spot on. And I'm a narcissist on top of it, so like I understand.
Well, I mean, it's really interesting because, when you look at like sort of the big picture of TV and how it's emerged, that, never would you talk about anything messy or depressing or sad and then there's like the shows that are so cripplingly terrible that like you can't even deal with reality, like Hoarders or Intervention, which are two guilty pleasures of mine. But still you kind of watch them and you can't look away.
Yeah.
And it's but it's like it's not coming from a place of understanding, or it's like a car crash almost.
It's
But
so
then there's shows that like hit you right where it matters. And you can't, because it means something to you,
Yeah.
that addresses a mental health issue or a societal issue or something that like resonates. And I think it's deeply personal. And, I think a lot of shows maybe had that, then didn't stick around long enough or.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Well, I think there's also a tradition, like, it very much harkens back to going back to the 70s or the 80s, sort of the very special episode.
Right.
The idea, like, each episode deals with a certain topic. And, like, if you go back to classic sitcoms, like, there would be a drug addict relative come to visit, right? They would kind of, like, delve
Jesse
into
Spano
those
gets hooked on
topics.
speed, which
Yeah.
doesn't happen.
Really, I was gonna go with Tom Hanks, his famous role in Family Ties, as he was the drunk uncle.
Yeah, and so I think
Tom Hanks was a drunk uncle in Family. I did not know
Oh
that.
yeah, he was fantastic. Those were the best episodes. He's
So
great.
I think in a lot of cases, what BoJack is doing is it's doing that, but it's actually taking them incredibly seriously, and the
Oh, yeah,
issues
yeah.
that it's tackling. There's obviously a whole lot of satire layered into this of the news and of society and politics this season.
But when it comes to the emotions,
Yeah.
like the emotions there are very real, very deep, and very well written. But also, you know what though, the show itself is also absurd and funny and lots of puns and tongue twisters and continuity, which is
Yes.
amazing. So at one point during the first season, BoJack's ottoman gets lit on fire at a party. In the next episode, in the credits, the opening credits, his ottoman, it's a fantastic credit sequence, his ottoman is on fire. And the most famous is he tries to steal, he gets really, really drunk and steals the D from the Hollywood sign because he gets enamored with this woman, Diane.
Yep.
And D for Diane, he gets really drunk, steals the D from the Hollywood sign. So it just says Hollywoo. Now, this is first season. It's called Hollywoo now.
Nice.
Everybody, and so the best thing about that joke is Hollywood celebrities. What do they know?
What do they know?
Do they know it? Let's find out.
They just call it now?
There's a whole game show theme in the third season. It's like it's layers. It's
Yeah.
very much a show about layers in the characters, layers in the comedy.
And then still like the absurdity, like that show.
Well, somebody asked
Hilarious.
on
What
Twitter
do they-
today, somebody sort of like open question. It's like, so BoJack Horseman, buzzy right now. Everybody watched it this weekend. People are talking about it on Twitter. They're like, can I jump in this season? And I'm just like, look, I want to say you can, because in an ideal world, we don't have enough time. Just watch what people are talking about right now. But I'm like, no, you actually will probably not understand a lot of what they're trying to accomplish this season without having seen this season.
And then like his foil is a dog named Mr. Peanut Butter, who had a very similar hit show called Mr. Peanut Butter's House.
which was a ripoff of Horsing Around.
Yeah.
Doggy, what now?
Doggy, what now is what I called the show last night. Because he was just saying that this season.
Oh, I
He's like
wondered what
this-
that meant.
He's like this super optimistic, like really kind of dumb dog, and
Because
he's
he's a dog. I mean, that's
Right,
the nature of it, right?
right.
His all the personalities are very much driven from the animals that they are,
Exactly.
just also filtered through. I mean, like, I think we take for granted the level of work they put in the world building on
Sure.
this show, because you kind of just accept it, like you said.
yeah.
And I think that takes a lot of time and energy, and has sort of been a real
So-
game changer in that regard.
Will brings up a reference that I do not get, but you guys might. The Bicycle Shop episode of Different Strokes was a very special episode. See, I don't get the joke. What is it? What
Mr.
happened?
Carlson from WKRP in Cincinnati molests poor Dudley.
Oh my
and
God.
Almost molests poor Arnold.
Seriously?
Yes, but they get away in time. So yeah, it's a really horrible episode.
But he taught kids a good lesson about
did.
avoiding sexual predators.
You stay away from Mr. Carlson. From
I mean, I
WKRP.
guess. I don't know. I'm currently reading a book about the orphan system. Like there used to be like this really horrible orphan trade almost, where like very beautiful children were kidnapped from their parents and the parents were tricked into signing. I mean, it was the whole thing. So now I'm a little bit like, oh my God, very
Well, it's
concerned.
like in Lion. Have you seen Lion?
No, I haven't.
Watch Lion. It's on
yeah, I
Netflix.
need to
It's
watch
a good
Lion.
movie.
Yeah, Midnight is on Netflix too, isn't it?
Moonlight.
Moonlight.
Yeah.
Yep. Also good
Also
movie.
Midnight. Yeah, I know.
Both
They're
good motion
they were both
pictures.
Oscar contenders last year, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's see. What did I do in pop culture?
You watched a lot of movies.
I
this
watched a
weekend,
lot
did
of
you not?
movies. I had a girls' weekend and watched all the junk food movies that Keith will not watch with me without copious amounts of alcohol. So I watched 50 Shades Darker.
Okay.
It's terrible. Terrible
course.
movie. But they were terrible books. But I read all the books and now I have seen all the movies that are out and the third movie is going to be terrible. But I'm going to take time off and go down to Atlanta and go watch the 50 Shades of Grey movie with my Atlanta friends because those are my, like, I didn't realize that I didn't have any bad movie friends here. Like I don't. So when I moved here, like I had friends in Atlanta that were like, hey, you've got to read these really terrible but super trashy books. But, you know, like friends that would sit and watch 6 episodes of Bridezillas with me and friends that would, you know, and they're friends and they enrich my life in the same way that any other friend enriches my life. But they, like, that was what we did.
Yeah.
That is how I knew them. So when we got together, I mean, we watched, so I saw Hidden Figures, which I hadn't seen. So that was actually a really good one. But we watched 50 Shades of Grey, and then I immediately made them watch Working Girl because she rips off a line from Working Girl, which once it was put together that their mother and daughter, which of course I knew,
Yes.
then I was like, oh, I mean, I really like Working Girl.
You see what they did. there.
I see what they done. Stupid. I mean, you know.
Because now I have Let the River Run stuck in my head.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's because that is literally the only song in that movie. At one point, my friends were like, do they have any other songs in this movie? And I'm like, no, it's just the same song with a variety of instrumentals and lyrics.
It won an Oscar.
Oh, yeah. It did. It did win an Oscar. And Melanie Griffith was like legendarily wasted through like that whole movie. And it won an Oscar and it was like nominated for Best Picture and stuff like that. So, yes, I made them watch Working Girl. We watched Hidden Figures. We watched You've Got Mail.
Sure.
Because why the hell not?
I love showing that to students to talk about technology because it's so like invested in email.
Yeah.
It's just like life-changing point of technology.
It was, yeah, email,
I think I show it tomorrow actually. Yeah, I think I'll show it tomorrow.
AOL.
You guys remember when email was a thing?
What's
Emails-
email?
Well, oh my God. Well, we're going to be saying that about Facebook sooner or later.
Yeah. Well, I
What
was
did
watching-
it beat in 1989?
What was what?
What I was trying to figure out what Let the River Run beat in 1989. I remember it being something I was
All on
upset
our
about.
own. On our own. From Ghostbusters 2.
Oh,
It's not up for an Oscar.
no, it actually beat nothing particularly meaningful. Good for
Well,
them.
who is it?
glad
Who is
you're-
the singer there?
Carly Simon.
Carly Simon. That's right.
Speaking of Carly Simon, our own personal Carly Simon, Juan is on the phone.
Juan,
Oh man, you're right. It is me.
Juan, have you seen Working Girl?
No.
Not a Working
That-
Girl, but the film
Yeah,
Working
yeah,
Girl.
I mean, we're not trying to call
Oh,
you out
then
on
no,
air.
I definitely have not.
All right, it's a pretty
Is that
spectacular.
a Netflix show?
It it is a 1988 or 89
Yeah,
movie
88.
starring like super sexy era Harrison
The
Ford.
sexiest Harrison Ford.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Ooh,
it's
sexy Air Ford.
oh yeah,
That's
it's
my
like
favorite
it's
Ford.
like the optimum of
Yeah.
Harrison Ford sexy. And Melanie Griffith.
Eating a bag of chips.
Well, now I have to see if it's. I'll have to watch it now.
Oh yeah, you
Cool.
got
It's
to.
a fine motion picture.
Are there any steamy Ford love scenes?
Their one love scene is really awkward and I didn't figure it out for years. There's no music. They just stand there kind of
Ooh.
tearing each other's clothes off in silence, and you feel like oh, I shouldn't be here. Like, because
There's a voyeuristic quality
you-
to it that you were not
right,
comfortable
because
with.
there's no music, because they only use that one song through the whole movie, and it doesn't work with that scene, so they just sort of let this happen in silence. There's a lot of topless Melanie Griffith, though, which is like a weird
Nice.
thing.
Hey guys,
That's how you get me to a movie. Is there topless scenes?
we forgot his
Yes.
intro.
All right.
Oh,
No topless.
well, are we going to go back and do his
Yeah, of
intro?
course.
Okay, well, okay.
Juan, your intro is gonna play.
Okay, we're
right
going to play your intro now.
now. Yeah. Comics.
We're professionals.
Forgot this existed.
We're so happy we have production. We've just got to
Oh wait,
play.
I'm sorry. Comics with Juan.
Oh, yeah, it's Juan, not Greg.
Okay, stop. Stop now.
It's not stopping.
Man.
There we go.
Okay.
That song just makes me want to dance.
We are ready for comics. What is out this week, and are we gonna buy it?
Well, I hope you buy it. I hope you come to buy the one thing that I say, and then you find out that there's so much more that you can also buy, and you get that too.
Okay.
But it's a pretty good week for DC this week. Action Comics and Superman Comics are doing a little mini 4-issue crossover event called the Oz Effect, which for anyone who's been keeping up with Rebirth and curious about the whole Watchmen things that they're doing with it, this should scratch that itch, because supposedly Oz may or may not be Ozymandias from the Watchmen.
What?
So that should be, yeah, dun dun dun. So that should be pretty interesting.
Juan, why do you think it took
And-
them almost 35 years to finally shoehorn and make a mockery out of Watchmen?
Because they need money really bad, and they need. This is this is a pretty good event. Like, what else could they possibly do
I would have said
than
because we can't have
shoehorn
nice
the
things.
Watchmen in?
What else? What else is out today or tomorrow?
Metal number 2 comes out tomorrow, which I'm pretty excited for. I caught up on all the Metal issues and preludes,
Mhm.
and it seems pretty exciting. And who knows what it could bring, especially with the end of the first issue, which I will not spoil because you can also pick up that along with number 2 if you come in tomorrow.
Oh.
It's pretty good. Scott Snyder being Scott Snyder at his best. Really exciting stuff. Generations Captain Marvel comes out tomorrow as well. I think there's only a couple more Generations issues left until Legacy starts, I believe, either later this month or next month. Mr. Miracle number 2 comes out. We're also getting reprints of issue 1, but this is the Tom King miniseries of who currently writes Batman and did that great Vision series for Marvel. Series is really good. So yeah, we'll have you covered if you want to get issue number 1 and 2. And then from Image, we have The Realm number 1, which is a new post-apocalyptic series,
Man,
post-apocalyptic
Image loves
fantasy series, I should say.
post-apocalyptic.
Well, you can't go
What was that?
pre-apocalyptic. That's just like now. It's just
Nobody
life.
ever
Yeah,
feels
yeah, that's out.
apocalyptic.
You occasionally get some
But,
apocalyptic stuff.
Hold on. Sorry, I'm having really bad phone
Windsurfing?
service. Say that again.
You doing some windsurfing?
So hold on. Phone cut out. Oh gosh. Bad stuff.
No, Juan, we can't
No.
lose you now.
We'll never know.
We
where
just
to
got you
go to
back.
get the comics.
No, but it's just a post-apocalyptic fantasy series where orcs and dragons and other mythical bad guys have invaded our modern world, and there's a band of heroes who must, thwart that because we can't have mythical creatures invading our land. How will we
No,
watch
no,
the new season
Not
of
in my
Rock City?
neighborhood.
We need a good band of thwarting.
Yeah, we do.
Need some thwarting. Some thwarting needs to be happening.
That's right.
Put on some costumes and make that not happen.
Love some good thwarting.
But Thornton ain't easy.
But also, Rick and Morty art book, which
Oh.
Rick and Morty, as we all know, is probably one of the greatest shows to come out in recent memory.
That is a BoJack
Art book
Horseman.
comes out tomorrow, which for anyone who likes Rick and Morty, which should be everybody, definitely check that out because Rick and Morty has some great art.
great.
True, true.
Awesome. So Juan, where can we get these quality reading materials?
You can get this quality reading material and more at Local Heroes, located at 1904 Colonial Avenue, in the heart of Ghent, next to Kogan's Pizza.
It's like that's a good 1-2 combo.
Oh,
Get
yeah.
some comic books at Local Heroes, and it's going to be a good experience because it's not like other stores around here. It's nice and clean and doesn't offend women. And then you go get going to another comic book shop.
Or you,
I
go
won't
get some
name any
pizza,
names.
get
Yeah.
some
And then you go get
coffee,
pizza.
It's
get
nice.
some video games.
Read your books.
That is an excellent block.
Yep,
Player-
good
yeah,
block.
it's a good block.
And you get to see Juan.
Only thing that could ruin that block would be a drive-through Starbucks.
That would ruin everything.
Ruin everything.
Juan, thank you so much for calling in. It sounds like we got some good stuff. Quit sending Keith home with pops. Last week he came home with a Bob Ross pop, which is
I
awesome.
feel like that's not something.
But
that
I'm
you
just
should
saying, like, we're
discourage.
running out of space. He's going to literally have to, like, build shelves on the roof.
I'll try to call that, but it's hard to say no when like he's opening up his wallet at the register. So, but I'll try my hardest.
That's a good point.
Like, no,
Yeah.
Keith, no, that's a bad purchase.
You need to put up a sign,
Bad.
Sarah. Like, give them a sign where, like, if you see this person, do not send,
Not
like,
send-
do not sell him pops.
I know, but then how would Juan and Greg and everybody at Local Heroes, like, pay their mortgage and their rent? I mean,
That's a fair point. Maybe
We wanna
maybe-
keep them
maybe
in
set a
business.
limit. Maybe just set a reasonable limit. Allow them a pop budget that they can distribute.
we'll do a reverse. You know how you do your loyalty cards,
Yeah.
Juan? We'll do a reverse loyalty card where he buys 8 and then he's not allowed to buy another one for like a week.
Good call. Yeah, no, we really figured this out.
God,
I'm surprised Keith has not commented with Keith Face yet.
he is not. Thanks for getting us all caught up, Juan. And wherever you are, please don't jump.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks, Juan.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, bye, guys.
That was Juan talking about some comics. I have been slacking so much on comics.
See, it's one of those things where I recently I went to Local Heroes.
Mhm.
I walked down. I picked up Paper Girls, the first trade.
It's good. Isn't
It's
it?
good, and it's like what I liked was I knew nothing about it. I knew it
It's even
existed.
better,
I knew
yeah. I did
it's
the
so much
same
more
thing.
fun to discover it in that way. So now I need to get back and pick up the next couple.
I did the same thing. I went and bought 1 and 2. I think on Free Comic Book Day, which seems like the opposite of what you should be doing on Free Comic Book
That's always
Day.
what I do in Free Comic Book
That's
Day,
me
though.
too.
They
I
make
don't-
so much money with free comics.
I don't
Yeah.
want your free comics. I want.
I
want
take
to
free
pay.
comics,
I
but I'm
wanna pay.
also like I should support the store while I'm here. That's
That
the whole
makes-
point.
People love free content. It's amazing how well free content
We'll make them pay for other things.
it creates brand ambassadors.
What can you convince people to pay for with this free content? Like, what are we?
We so the ultimate goal here for our amazing free content is we are hoping to create brand loyalists who love pop. They love having conversations with us, so that we drive up viewers and get sponsors, so
Okay.
that I can get an actual footstool. I've got my feet up, got my feet up on a cooler because we're classy.
So we're not gonna like try to sell merchandise.
Well, if we
I think we need to have popped pops.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Well,
yeah,
yeah.
right? That seems like there needs to be a way to just milk these people of their money. That's the whole point of this operation.
That's true.
right?
We definitely need to start getting on the
yeah,
t-shirt
what do
bandwagon.
what do our viewers want to buy? What
I
can
feel
we
like we're
make
not
that you will
deeply-
buy?
We're not deeply consumerist enough.
We really
need to approach
aren't.
this.
Really
Yeah,
are
that's a
not.
different option, but we can work from there.
Very workers' party here.
Well, we just like doing
We
things
like bread. We like water
We do like doing things.
and vodka
and vodka, and standing in line for those things,
and doing
Yeah.
things.
and sometimes doing things. Miles, I don't think we got to your pops. What you did this week on pop?
Oh, I watched BoJack Horseman.
Did you do the same thing?
Yeah, that's what I was just
We
like, yeah,
knocked
we
it all
can
out?
talk about that all day. That was naturally no, that was it's one of those things where for certain shows with Netflix, I won't actually like log full in and like go all in. But with BoJack, I wanted to get through it, and also like the fact is for me, like my Twitter feed is like so fast on that stuff. Like they were discussing like Vulture released an oral history of the 11th episode of that season today.
Oh my
Which
gosh!
means that if you didn't get through 11 episodes of BoJack Horseman since Friday, then you cannot consume that content.
Don't worry about that.
There's an
I'm all
expectation.
done.
And so for me, yes, I got through it. I did have to pace that a little bit, but no, I certainly feel like BoJack.
I
for
did
me,
too because I
that's
get
that.
exhausted with it.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, I stopped at one point just because I'm like, look, end of the night, feeling kind of winding down. I've been through the ringer. And then someone's like, on my Twitter feed, like, oh, I just finished episode 9 of BoJack Horseman. And I'm like, what episode am I about to watch? And it's like, episode 9. And I'm like, oh. And sure enough, ripped my heart out.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
You know, I will say though, I feel like this season was a little lighter.
There's a little hope.
A little, yeah.
There's more hope, particularly for
Brighter?
Bojack.
Maybe
Particularly for
brighter?
Bojack. I feel like while episode 6 does delve deep into his depression, the rest of the season gives him some outlets and kind
Yeah.
of moves things around. I think it's more just that there are moments. Enough time passes in the story that you kind of see progress and see forward momentum and kind of get a feeling for that. But when they stop in on certain characters and moments, it kind of hits hard.
When I had my my annual post BoJack Cry, this time it wasn't necessarily. I feel like necessarily. I became weirdly Arabic. There's a 1-2 punch I think at the end.
Yeah.
One of which was kind of mirroring my like kind of personal problems that I've had over the last. So there's that one, but then there's the ending that I didn't really see coming, and there's a last line there that punched me in the gut, but not for bad reasons necessarily.
Yeah.
And then I lost it, cried for 10 minutes, and then went to Target and stared at mobs.
Which is very Bojack.
That's how I reset
It's
it.
very, very Bojack.
I told Matt I was going to save that and like write that into
Yeah.
like a character.
Like, I think there's clearly a Bojack scene in just, like, somebody staring at mops.
Yeah.
Yeah, after like a crying jag. Yeah, I've been
True story.
I've been ruminating on characters. I've
Been a
some
big book.
some characters in my brain. I just need to plug them in somewhere. Like I used to know a woman who everyone called her baby, and not because of a like it was because her boyfriend called her baby.
But not a Baby Driver situation.
Not like a baby driver
But not
situation.
like because she's actually an oversized baby.
No, she is. But I'm so in my brain, I've made this. Now she and that relationship ended. Now everyone went back to calling her Lauren. But in my mind, they got married, and now they're very, very old, and everyone calls her baby. So at some point in her life, her children call her baby.
Okay.
Because I'm reading a book where that's the thing. Character names are very important.
They're bad.
Okay. Well,
I hate
we've
the
got
process.
guests, and we're going in cold on this one.
We'll do it live.
So we'll do it live.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Tell us a little. We're going in cold. We've got you on the phone. Do we have both Jenny and Sarah?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Oh, guys, we're so excited. Well, we are talking to Jenny McConnell Frederick and Sarah Tarucci. Did I say that correctly? Torcini. Oh, I was so close.
Torcini. Oh, wow. Good
That's my
guess.
fault.
Oh, no, it's my fault. He's been putting the wrong pronunciation in my head all day. Anyway, they are the director and star of Neverwhere, which is opened or will be opening soon.
It is open.
It is open. Awesome. In Washington, D.C. at the, see now you've made me,
The Rorschach Theater.
the Rorschach Theater. I keep thinking Horseshack because of Welcome Back, Kotter, and you put that in my head and now it's all over.
Yeah.
I don't know
No, you got it.
why are they letting me talk? Like they should just take over. But anyway, we're so glad to have you guys. Welcome.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, thank you.
So tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Sure. I am Jenny McConnell Frederick. I am one of the co-artistic directors along with Randy Baker of Rorschach Theater. We've had Rorschach here in D.C. for about 18 years, and we do big epic plays in intimate, unique environments. We like immersive theater that surrounds the audience with the work that's happening, and so Neverwhere is very much a signature piece for us. We did it 4 years ago, and we're very excited to bring it back here.
Yeah. And I am Sarah Torcini, and I am playing Dor. I'm a company member with Rorschach. I played Dor in the original 2013 production, and Jenny decided to bring me back. So,
Job security. I like it.
I think you're doing something right.
So,
sorry, what?
We said we think you're doing something right with all that job security.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
So tell us a little bit about the story and the immersive experience. We want to hear all about it. Tell our listeners.
Sure. Well, Sarah, do you want to talk about the story, and then I can talk about how we tell it?
Yeah, so without going into too many spoilers, the main plot of the story, we open with a girl being chased. She's running for her life. That girl would be me. And her name is Dor, and she's gets herself into a bit of a tight spot and manages to sort of end up with her magic, she is magical. She can open a door anywhere at any time. That's her special superpower. And so after getting chased by these two scary guys, she opens a door and ends up in the middle of a London street and sort of gets rescued by this guy who has no idea what he's gotten himself into. Basically the story is about him following her and helping her go through and get sort of find out who killed her family. Yes, spoilers. Her family was killed. She's the only surviving member of her family. Those two guys trying to chase her were trying to kill her, and so it's sort of a mystery as to who killed her family and why. And so the guy who saved her, Richard Mayhew, helps her along with a colorful cast of characters to find out who killed her family. And wow, I shouldn't be allowed to talk either. But who killed her family and why? That's the basic. And then the guy learns a lot about himself along the way, but that's not really important.
No.
Yeah, he doesn't need to come of age. We don't need that.
I know. Boring. Yeah.
So tell us about the theater and the immersive experience that comes with the show, because that's so cool. I love immersive theater, and I think it's, for some reason there's this like stigma that it's like super weird and you're standing around awkward and you don't know what to do and maybe you have to wear a mask. And there's like a Law and Order episode about it that kind of freaked me out for a few years. So
Right.
Yes.
So, we're big believers in immersive theater, but in a way that hopefully isn't confrontational in that same way. We're never going to put you up on stage and make you wear a funny hat and be a part of the play, but we want to surround you with the play in every way. So that's what we mean by immersive. So it's kind of a combination of a more traditional experience and a full-on wander around, engage with the actors kind of immersive. So you begin the experience at Rorschach by being pushed down an alley in the theater.
That's awesome.
Full of trash, and you meet one of our we have
colorful
two
cast of characters.
Right, we have two, and one of them is more friendly than the other, so it just depends on which one you get. And you get a welcome greeting of sorts, and then you are sent off with best wishes into London below to find your seat. And then you sit down and the play begins, but what is great about the way that we staged this is that some of the action happens in front of you like it would in a traditional theater, but there's audience all around, and then there's a whole ring around the outside of the theater, kind of behind the heads of the audience, where more action takes place. So this is very much a journey play. Dora is going on a journey to find out who killed her family and to avenge them. And so the play is full of, Aaron Sorkin walk and talks, and we needed a way to depict that. And so we have this fantastic runway of platforms and sewer tunnels that go up around behind the backs of the audience's head. So not only does the action play out in front of you, if you sit on the front row of the aisles, it all happens very close to you, but sometimes it happens right behind your head or right beside you as they come out onto platforms that are kind of in the audience structure. So we really do put the audience right in the middle of the action. We have these fabulous little wind-up rats that will come out and run around your feet at one point. More spoilers.
Awesome.
But
how many of those get broken?
We really want you to feel like you're in London below.
Yeah, no.
But I would say that it's never that you feel like you're going to get hurt or anything. We always keep the audience very safe, and it's not like you have to do anything. You get to watch. Right. You just get to watch very closely and have things happen.
What I was just going to say from that, sort of like you remember you staged this originally in 2013. What sort of changed in the intervening 4 years in terms of how you approached the production?
Yeah. Well, I think, the world is a very different place than it was 4 years ago.
That is true.
But a lot of the themes of the show, I think, really still hung true for us. It's about finding out who you really are. It's about making a choice to live your life intentionally. Richard says very early in the play, sometimes you just have to do something. And we felt like that was a refrain that was very important to us now that, frankly, we kind of skipped over in 2013. Didn't seem as important then. So we've hung on to pieces like that from a kind of philosophical center. I think this version is a little darker. I think there's a little bit more anger in it, I think. So that's kind of the emotional piece. I think the actors, Dan and Sarah, who play Richard and Dor, have grown up and changed a lot in the last 4 years.
Yeah, we both have had like major life events happen in the intervening time that has totally Dan became a father and I lost a mother. So like it's impossible for us to do the characters the same way we did last time. For me in particular, losing a parent and playing a character who is going through the loss of her family and looking to find out what happened, like I have a new understanding of this character that I couldn't possibly have had before. And but yeah, it's a little bit darker because, you know, we're a little bit darker maybe. Yep. Yeah.
Well, that and I mean, even the context of the location of the theater. I mean, last time I was in DC, it was like a whole other vibe than it was a year ago.
Right. Yes.
I can't imagine why. I really have no indicator of what would be causing that. But but yeah, it's you know, especially coming from a place where you are surrounding people with this story, and then you have to pick out the greater context of the world, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sort of
there's, you know, I think as a nation we're a little bit more we're grappling with harder themes than we were in 2013. If that's a nice way to put it.
Sure.
A tactful way to put it. So the play is grappling, this production is grappling with that too. Yeah.
So I was curious too, like in what ways has the staging changed in that intervening time? You kind of get a second crack at this, and obviously it was very successful the first time. So how did you approach sort of, I guess, revamping that side of things?
Yeah, there were a couple of things we wanted to incorporate, and I don't know how much I want to spoil all of them, but the way the play ends, one of the main pieces at the end, we shifted how that happens and do that in a little bit bigger scale, more epic way than we had done before, using some of the actual architecture of the space. And then we brought in a company called Pixel Lumen Labs, made up of, it's actually a for-profit company that some of our company members work for, and they do architectural lighting, but they also do unique technological experiences that have to do with light and projection and sound. So we brought them to the table to help us as designers, and they brought a visual element that is very different than what we had in 2013. So you'll see projections throughout the play on 3 different screens. We also have some handheld projectors that crop up here and there in the show, and just gave us another tool by which to tell the story and to kind of tap into the emotional lives of the characters in a different way than we were able to in 2013. I think that's one of the biggest visual pieces you'd see that's different from what you saw in the past. Some of the costumes were reimagined and re-envisioned. We have a whole new look for the Earl's Court fellows.
Yes.
Our
there's a David Bowie sort of cameo feel,
right?
Maybe.
Right.
Yeah, very
We
cool.
went from, it used to be like a Henry VIII sort of thing, and it is not that anymore.
So in some ways we modernized it. You know, I think the first version we did was kind of indirectly set in the late 90s, early aughts in terms of the technology we used and the way that it looked and felt. And this time you have villains on iPhones, and you're updating the vibe of it a little bit too, just to kind of catch up with where we are. And then so the cast is about 50-50 returning from 2013, and the other half is new. And there's just some really exciting developments and quirks and twists in the way that these roles are reinterpreted by new actors. So that is exciting to see. Another fun twist, I guess, is that 2 of the characters that fight fairly frequently in our stage combat, there's quite a bit of combat in the show, are actually married in real life.
And they got engaged. They got engaged when we did it the first time.
Oh,
right.
awesome.
On the
So
Awesome.
on the stage, literally at curtain call one night. It was gorgeous. But yeah, now they fight a lot in the show, not out of the show, just in the show.
So that's a fun quirk to see.
Yeah.
Now, so obviously, Neverwhere being a Neil Gaiman property, and Neil Gaiman being, just developing a huge fan base with his kind of groundbreaking comic works on like Sandman, and was there ever kind of like any worry or hesitation, like, oh my gosh, are we gonna be able to please like fans? Because there has to be like an expectation that they've got once you've got his name on the property, you're adapting one of his works. Is there ever any kind of like, worry that you're not going to be able to deliver?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, certainly there is. They're big shoes to fill, and they're big. These characters mean a lot to a lot of people and to us. And I think we went to great lengths, particularly the first time, but this time too, to be true to the book where we were able to, and to hang on to some of those pieces and parts and let it inform little details. That for those who haven't read the book and are less familiar, may never notice. But for those who are more familiar with it, they're going to see some little Easter eggs, kind of things that we've taken from the book to kind of honor those characters.
Nice.
I know, Sarah had a relationship with this book long before she came to the story, so I think that has helped us inform Dor, certainly.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, when I heard that Rorschach was doing this play back in 2011, I want to say, and it didn't go on until 2013. I'm a rabid Neil Gaiman fangirl, and so I was like, what can I do to get into this production? And so then, when I did get cast, then that exactly what you're saying, that sort of, oh my God, how can I do justice to this thing now that I love so much? The one thing that did help is that when Neil Gaiman came and toured and to DC and did Ocean, he was signing for Ocean at the End of the Lane when that came out, which came out right before we did the first production. I asked him to sign my copy of Neverwhere, and I told him that I was going to play Dor, and he sort of looked up at me as he was signing, and he wrote "Mind the Gap," which is a very important thing in Neverwhere, and he said, "Yeah, I can see it." And I was like, I have his blessing. I can do this now.
That's huge.
That's awesome.
But it was, I do take it very seriously, and the only thing I could tell myself at the end of the day is I have done everything I can to do justice to this character, and nobody could have taken more things into account than I could have. So I think, I may not be everybody's version of Dor, but I am the best version of Dor that that I could possibly be. And so that's got to be good enough, I guess.
Well, if it matters to you, then it's reflected in your work. I mean, that's what it comes down to. That's so heartwarming.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, they say never meet your heroes, and when you do, and they're great people, it makes it so good. It's like the best thing in life.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine what they would have done if Neil had looked up and said, okay.
That would have been. You sure?
That's the direction to go in.
Yeah. But thankfully he didn't.
So how long is the show slated to run for?
We run through October 1st at Atlas Performing Arts Center in Northeast DC.
Okay, cool. And then do you guys have any projects coming up in the future?
We do. We have a Halloween project where we create a bunch of short plays on a theme, which will happen the weekend of Halloween. So that'll be a fun adventure to throw a bunch of short plays together and create something brand new. And then we'll have a new show coming up in April, but we can't announce it just yet. So yes, soon.
Well, you'll have to call us back and tell us all about it.
Oh, we will. Yeah. It's really good.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I can vouch. But yes, hush hush.
Well, great. Well, we will. We're over here in Virginia Beach, the Virginia Beach area, and it is not a long drive to come up there. So
no, definitely not for something like this.
Yeah, we need to make the drive for some awesome. And now that I'm assured that I will not be put in a mask and tortured by somebody else in a mask.
No, no.
We just want you to feel worried that you might, but we'll never actually do it.
Okay, I will go. I will go in with, guarded optimism. Is that a good emotion?
Perfect.
The only thing that the weirdest thing that happens is that a character might sit down next to you for a little bit, and really that's that's the only interaction that you would get. So you're always safe. I know that's it's funny because we're theater people and we're like, yeah, I'll totally participate, but I forget that some people that makes them very nervous, and so I don't want people to be nervous. I want them to feel safe, but also oh my God, this is so crazy.
Also nervous.
Also a little nervous. Well, when you come from a world where your only audience participation is the the choir standing up and singing during the Nutcracker, and you're like, oh crap, they're sitting in front of me. So that's like,
People figure it out.
yeah, they figured out.
And how do people
Yeah.
get tickets if they want tickets?
You can go to RorschachTheater.com, or you can call the Atlas box office at 202-399-7993.
Awesome.
Perfect.
I think we're mostly sold out on Gold Star, but
Yeah, we do have some half-price tickets out there, but
That's great.
they're pretty much.
Well, I have tweeted the link and I posted it on our Facebook video, and you guys were terrific. Thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you.
thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Yep.
And let us know when you decide to come up.
Yeah,
Oh, we definitely will.
absolutely.
Yeah, we'll have to plan it. Come up.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, and definitely get out there and break
Thank
a leg.
you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Sounds like a fun play.
I know it does sound like
I
a
didn't
fun play.
realize it was like immersive like
Well,
that.
what's interesting is I feel like when we talk about sort of immersive like dynamics, it's all about sort of the idea that you are part of sort of a living entity. And
Right.
it's, like so much of theater is like you're meant to be transported in a
Mhm.
sense. But yet, in some ways, this is both calling attention to the fact that it's fake and real.
Right.
Yeah.
I know that sounds really simple, but it's the heart of it. Right?
No,
The
it's-
sort of
it's a
immersive theater is sort
thing.
of designed to do all the idea of projections, lots of fun stuff happening there.
Well,
Sounds
it's like
really
it's jarring when, you know, an actor breaks the fourth wall and it's like, wait, why are you talking to me? No. You're in, you got a world that you're in.
When
I
an actor's
will-
phone rings.
I
we-
will acknowledge up front though that like personal space issues would make me uncomfortable if someone sat next to me.
Just don't touch me if I don't expect
yeah,
it.
that's sort of like whereas I'm totally fine like to be around the interaction and to interact in the way I want, but part of me is just like do it over there with that person.
No, why does
You
it got to
would,
be this person?
right?
Do it that person.
You would hate it because I love like immersion. I love theming. I love the theater. Obviously, I mean that's what kind of led me to be a filmmaker and performer. But you'd hate it because in a few weeks I'm going down to Halloween Horror Nights.
Yes.
Where there's going to be lots of in your face and chainsaws revving.
And see, I don't
it's
do
insane.
I don't do horror and suspense.
You would really hate it.
I would really
I don't really either. Like I was looking at the Saw house. One of the houses is based on the Saw
Yes,
movies.
correct.
And the description says something about not
I was
only
trying to
will
think
you-
of something snarky to say about Saw House, but I've got nothing.
like a sawhorse. Like someone who can't say the word sawhorse would say
Wasn't that your,
sawhouse.
wasn't that your
Saw
sorority
house.
back in college?
Saw House, yeah. I was a Saw.
Sawhouse.
No, I went on a first date with a guy to see Saw 2 or 3 or 4, or I don't know, doesn't matter, they're all the
Oh.
same. And we dated for a year, which is one of the world's greatest mysteries. It was a first date.
Do
We
you
just-
have some sort of
Saw?
contraption?
huh?
Did you choose Saw or was
He
this
chose.
chosen for you?
I never would. He chose Saw, and for whatever
move.
reason, I saw.
Because
That's
you
a
don't-
choice. That's a choice for someone to be like, I'm gonna take someone to see Saw.
Well, I don't think I'm going.
That
in the
explains a
house.
lot about that person.
Do you
though.
think like it was a sort of thing where it's like it's a horror movie and she'll be scared?
No,
and
I
she'll be
think
more
he was
likely-
just a d bag.
Just really
Okay,
liked
okay.
Saw.
It's
He
important context.
He wasn't a big fan of Saw. Loved torture though.
No, oh god, this
I
is
don't.
getting
I
weird.
think I'm actually gonna. I think I'm actually gonna skip the house though because the description said not only will you be seeing going through the house and seeing the Saw traps, you'll also be experiencing them. And I was like, no, I don't.
No,
wanna
I
do
don't
that.
want to. That sounds terrible.
Why do I want to do that?
So we're getting some fun facts. I didn't want to interrupt our lovely ghosts
Lovely ghost.
guests. I was like guests and hosts, and then we were talking about the Saw House, but they were guests. And Will says, fun fact, the BBC TV adaptation of Neverwhere, Dora was played by Laura Fraser, who went on to play Lydia, Gus Fring's methamphetamine supplier on Breaking
Oh,
Bad.
indeed.
Yeah. So there's the fun fact. The more you know.
I didn't even know that. She
Will
was,
Will would know that fun fact.
Will
that would 100%
Will is
be
a
something Will would
plethora.
know.
He has a
That's-
plethora of fun facts.
Yeah.
And then Ezra weighs in and said today he learned that when he was 7, Vin Diesel broke into a New York theater with his brother in order to vandalize it. And when the pair was caught, instead of calling the police, the artistic director offered them roles in an upcoming show, starting Diesel's acting career. So the theater got him off the streets.
Huh. And in a somewhat immersive way, in that he immersed himself in it by breaking in.
Yes, he literally immersed himself.
Yeah.
By putting his actual body into the theater. So there we go. That's our interesting info from our friends on the Facebooks.
Yes, that is true.
Yeah. And let me think. What was the last live stage thing I saw?
I don't know. Saw.
No,
No,
it was not Saw.
no.
Saw the musical.
I
no.
would see that, by the way.
Yeah, no, I
100%.
still would not. I'm trying to think. I don't know what the last thing I saw live was.
Like live theater wise.
Was it-
Yeah.
was it
I
Saw
was
live?
just in New York, So I was just at a couple of Broadway productions.
What did you just see?
I saw Hamilton in December.
You saw
Ah,
him.
jealous.
I want to see
I
Hamilton.
can't get tickets.
Um,
It's coming to DC next year. April, I believe.
Yeah. So I saw Hamilton,
Yeah.
and then I saw The Humans, which won the Tony for Best Play
Okay.
last year. And then I saw Oh Hello on Broadway, which you can also now watch on Netflix, which is Nick Kroll and John Mulaney's, I guess, extended skit deal. And so we saw that as well, my brother and I.
Nice.
It was a fun time.
Yeah. I'm just turning my mic off.
Yeah.
I haven't been to New York in a long time. Last time I was there, I went for New Year's and I did the thing where I stood in the same spot for 8 hours. But it
doesn't sound fun.
It wasn't fun
No.
until midnight, and then it was worth it. But I'll never do it again.
Yeah.
But while I was there, I saw Rent.
Wow, that was a long time ago.
That was a long time ago. And then that was like 2007 or 8? No, it was 8 because I remember I was pleased that the glasses.
Let's say 1994.
No, it was. I mean, it was obviously not the first one, but it was.
that you could see through the glass on
No,
the 8.
yeah, and it didn't. They didn't do that
Yeah.
stupid thing where they make there's like a 7 or a 1, and it's all
Yeah.
dumb.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was 2000.
I mean, look, the glasses are still dumb.
Yeah, well, yeah,
I
of
just wanna be
course.
very
But when
clear.
you're in Times Square,
Oh, yeah, no, totally.
And we met this family from like the Midwest somewhere, and we were so bored standing there that we wound up playing this game of like, I'm going on a car trip and I'm bringing an apple. I'm going on a car trip and I'm bringing a banana. You know, whatever. We played that with this random family from like, I don't know, Iowa or something, and then never saw them again. And a Chinese native who was a tourist in New York for New Year's and did not speak any English, but understood the custom of kissing at midnight. Like,
Like really well.
Really?
Like almost suspiciously well.
well, I don't know if he understood the cultural context of what was going on, but
Okay.
I was not there with anyone I would have kissed.
No.
I was although my one friend just started making out with some random dude, but that was kind of her. But I like hugged all the random strangers, but so he goes in to like make out, and I was like, I felt really bad because I was like, oh, it is an American custom, but I can't really explain to you the context, so
No.
I just like hugged him. I think I kissed him on the cheek. He seemed happy.
What a time to be alive.
I know, it was amazing.
Isn't that true?
But yeah, we saw Bugs Bunny, like the symphony, when they did the Bugs Bunny score. We did that. That was
very
fun,
cool.
but it wasn't like it was the symphony, I'm trying to think. I don't remember the last.
Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
it a silly symphony?
Well, yeah, it was
guess.
It was literally Looney Tunes.
That was literally what it was. But yeah, no, I thought that was so that was my first time being. Yeah, it appears to be on.
There a
We're trying
bug
to-
on your mic?
We're taking you with some mic stuff. My experience with that was that
That's gonna be funny for one person.
Yep. I had been to New York when I was in 2009. I saw my first Broadway show, but this time I got back. Actually, no, that's not the last Broadway show I saw. I saw Groundhog Day, the musical, when I was there in April,
Awesome.
which closed this week.
Oh,
I think it's on Sunday, maybe.
I've been slacking. I haven't seen anything since the Book of Mormon.
Which is a fine show.
That's
I saw that
coming
in
here.
Chicago.
It's
Oh.
coming here in October.
Yeah, that's
It's-
right.
It's hard for me to want to see the road show when I saw original cast.
Oh my God, you're so pretentious. Let's go
well,
to
the
news.
opening week.
I did not see the opening cast, but I did see Ben Platt,
Oh,
who you might know from Pitch Perfect,
Yeah.
who just won a Tony for Dear Evan Hansen. I saw him playing Elder Price.
All right.
I gotta tell you, it was Josh Gad and Andrew Rannells were fantastic.
I'm sure they were.
Not
Josh
to
Gad
geek-
is
not
awesome.
to not to have Broadway geek out here. Me and Miles need to become best friends. I think.
Apparently.
I think that's what has to happen.
Wasn't that what just happened?
Did we just become best friends? Did you just make me do that?
Yes, I did. And it was very pleasurable. You want to do
Get
news?
something out of that. Let's do
Oh.
news.
We got
That's it.
news. We got news.
Breaking news.
It's just regular news.
But Sarah,
But I sourced it from.
And we're waiting for a news thing.
how can we do news
Oh.
when we don't have this?
Oh, yep. There we go. Publimeter.
Where we get all of the pop news.
Publimetro.
What's-
The O is the globe is the O. See what they did there?
Oh, we've been calling it Publimeter.
You know I don't speak Spanish. In English, please.
Oh my God, my brain is blown open.
It's only going to be Publimeter from now on.
Well, Publimeters.
I hate to. I feel like I've ruined it.
It's not. No, you fixed it,
Apparently.
but it's not a super great design. Oh, there's a mic wire stuck to my foot. Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna deal with that. That's fine.
All right. So the way news works is that I used to make rules for it, and nobody adhered to them, including myself. So we are just gonna dive right on in. So I will give you two each a chance to comment, and you will get precisely as long as you take.
Yes.
All right, Miles, you are first.
Yes.
J.J. Abrams will direct Star Wars 9.
Fine.
Isn't he the Star Trek guy?
Yeah, but he also directed the first Star Wars film, Force Awakens.
Okay,
Of
how do
this
we
new
feel about
trilogy.
that?
It's fine. It's a perfectly fine decision. At the end of the day, this decision at its core.
Is it? What? Did you turn off my mic?
No.
Is it fine or is it a great decision?
No, it's fine. Here's what I'll say. So look, this movie is coming out in a little over 2 years. They delayed it to December as well.
Okay.
So it's been pushed back. Aladdin is replacing it in May of 2019. And at the end of the day, they had to move very quickly. They're meant to be in production starting, I think, in January. With Trevorrow leaving the way that he did, they needed somebody who they knew they could work with, who knew the process.
Wasn't a jerk.
Wasn't a jerk. And I think at the end of the day, by all accounts, they offered it to Rian Johnson, who's directing The Last Jedi currently, Episode 8, and he didn't want to keep going, which would have been a lot. Like, no break, no chance to breathe.
Yeah.
And I think the next choice was to go to Abrams, who I think did a great job with Force Awakens getting things started, is familiar with the actors, can kind of remain connected to that in thread. I think it's the right choice given the context.
Absolutely.
If they had like a 3-year lead time, they could have found some visionary to come in and try to make this work. In context, I think Abrams did a really great job with this. I like him as a director. I think it's the right choice.
That?
I have a little bit of a different take because I don't think that they want a visionary. I don't think Disney wants any visionaries in.
I kind of want them to want one, and I'm going to hold on to that.
I know.
And I feel ultimately what's weird to me is like Rian Johnson is, to my mind, a visionary. And by all accounts, that worked out great.
I think so.
Right? And so it's weird to me that it would play that way from that.
Publimeter. Why did it go back?
There you go.
There it goes.
Hi guys, we're back.
I mean,
sorry, I
it's,
was dealing with a sound issue too. For some reason, the faders don't work.
No, yeah, of course
I
they do.
personally love being a disembodied voice, so I'm totally fine with that.
Well, it is
But yeah,
my
so
favorite way to voice.
for you, you actually feel like
Well,
this is the best you're going to get in a way.
Well, because I think that if anything is held true, that I think Disney is in control of these franchises now.
Ezra
and,
says they don't want a visionary; they want a yes man director.
Exactly, and I think they want that because of the not just the problems with Trevorrow, because apparently he was really cranking it up, but before that you've got the problems that they had on Ant-Man with
Edgar Wright.
Edgar Wright.
You have Gareth Edwards being pushed out of Rogue One.
Exactly,
There's certainly a
and-
trajectory there. I would agree. I guess for me, I think that with enough lead time, with enough of like an agreement between these parties, obviously Lord Miller gets added to this. I feel like there is still a way that a director can come in where they agree they're on the same page and make this work. And I think
the expanded universe is the way they do that. The spin-off movies.
Also, if they're really giving it doesn't seem like they're going in really exciting directions there either. So I guess
which is surprising because they have so much latitude to do something there that's interesting that doesn't even involve established characters.
I'm hoping that they break out of that mode of looking at every film as a tentpole where everything has to make like $1.5 billion to make it work. That they start to see the universe as being a set of different films of different levels and hierarchies. And I would hope that their vision of directors moves outside of white dudes in the process of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
dudes
in this decision, I think comfortably they made the right call for the sake of this franchise, which is a tentpole, which is a blockbuster.
If you had to, if you were given the latitude to do something in the Star Wars universe, what would it do? What would you do? What kind of just big concept?
I guess I would just try to make something like completely far-flung, disconnected from anything that we've seen. Just like go full extended universe and just create sort of a corner to make that happen.
I'd make a Obi-Wan movie. Sarah,
well, they're gonna make an Obi-Wan movie.
I would make an old school pixelated video game based on the life of the Ewoks.
I'd buy an Ewok origin story.
Yes.
Actually, I don't.
I
but
love
like
the
a
Ewok.
game, but
I
like a
loved-
or
I'm
like
with
an
Ewok
app.
I'm
so
with you.
much.
I'm with you.
An app.
Like they mattered so much to me as a kid. Like I was
Yeah.
that was 100%.
Yeah,
We had
That's
had
what I would do.
growing up, my brother and I, of the toys and things, we had the Ewok Village. Like that was our one big Star Wars setup.
Yeah.
So we had
Mm-hmm.
figures from all throughout. Ultimately, all the movies came out except for Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
after
Ezra
I was
accuses
born,
you of wanting Disney not to care about money. LOL.
But here's the thing. Okay,
Disney
first
not
of
to
all,
care for
I've gotten a number of arguments with people with this lately. I am not willing to capitulate to capitalism when it comes to some of these issues. And at the end of the day, I feel as though there are plenty of examples of directors who can make money and who can turn these stories into
J.J.
something
Abrams.
that can do something meaningful. And Abrams is 100% one of those people, so I get why they would make that call. But like, they should be willing to take risks with Star Wars. The whole point of having an established franchise like this is that it gives you the freedom to take risks and tell different
Yeah,
stories
it's like
within that.
they set up that expanded universe, and it like for me personally, it got me really excited because seeing what the books did, because the books didn't always. I mean, they always. I was like, this is going to be great because they're actually going to not just give us expanded universe in like novel form and in comics, they're doing it with movies. But then you
And
hear
then it's
Obi-Wan
Prequel and origin story and origin story
if they
and
announce a
bridge
Yoda
film.
I'm never picking up another piece of Star Wars ever again. I'm
Well,
done.
Will would like Miles to compound his opinion on the Ewok movies.
Oh, I've never seen them.
What? You
Well,
got
there's
to.
your
They're
answer, Will.
fantastic.
No, this is the truth. At the end of the day, like a lot of these things, like I didn't really read much of the extended universe stuff. Like that really wasn't a huge point of consumption for me when it comes to this content. And so I'm very much I embrace the notion of it. Just time wise, it never really happened.
If Keith were
I
here,
love
he would
Ewok
talk about
Adventure.
the show on Disney, the animated show on Disney. So I will
Rebels.
point out that exists.
Yeah. Look, I mean, look.
I
and the
never
thing is,
watch
like,
it with
people
them.
tell me it's like Star Wars Rebels is great. I'm like, I'm 100% sure it is. I don't
Like,
doubt that
I
for
mean,
a second.
That's something that I mean. I guess it touches on it with like Thrawn coming in.
They're gonna
and
have to
some-
deal with a bunch of
but-
stuff if they want to tell an Obi-Wan movie because Rebels has touched on a lot of that sort of bridge material
Well,
stuff.
Yeah, and just
There's
don't
all sorts
do
of
it.
questions.
Don't
Yeah.
do it. Why not do like a seedy bounty hunter movie
See,
that
so-
doesn't have anything to do with established bounty hunters?
Or Josh Trank, which is
Or
apparently
Josh
that was
Trank.
apparently Boba
Was
Fett.
that?
I
Don't
think.
do Boba Fett.
Neil suggests
Do
a
something-
clash between the Empire and a race in some distant corner of the galaxy that the rebellion/resistance isn't a part of.
Yeah.
They definitely need to disconnect it. Like the
Yeah.
whole point of this is that and to be fair, look, they're doing this trilogy, right? It's a second trilogy, a third trilogy in context. And the whole point is that it's the Skywalker trilogy, staying connected to these characters, building from that. And if that's the case, after that, what are they going to do?
Do you think they're going to do another set of core movies? Or you think we're just going to get one off?
Did you say
And
corn movies?
corn
Corn.
movies?
Corn movies? Yeah.
Yeah.
They only grow. Corn only grows on Alderaan though, and that's
Well,
a shame.
hmm.
Got bad news about that.
Don't
So
have corn
the
anymore.
corn movie franchise is not going to last.
You know what
very
I
long.
want? No, I want an agriculture movie. I want a movie about
You want a
agricultural
Star Wars
systems
agriculture?
across
But,
the galaxies.
Uh,
That's a good way of looking at it. Yeah. But no,
I could see that being like a weirdly popular like free Hulu movie that everybody has to watch, but it's like it's on Hulu, but like
everybody
it,
has to watch it.
yeah, because it's like,
like
have
some
you
sort of
seen
requirement?
the Corn Star Wars movie? It's about Star Corn on Alderaan.
Star corn.
this is
I gotta go trademark that right now.
I've never been more
Do you know
mad
what?
at you.
Do
on
you know
the
what that
show.
is?
Star Corn?
Do you know what that is? That's a kernel of an idea right there.
Ah, you're both.
Oh.
You're both are killing me.
I think that is the cue to go to the next news story. What do you think?
That works.
And what's next in the Publimeter?
In the Bubblemeter, not Publimetro, because that's
Metro Public,
ridiculous.
yes.
What it is in the surprising but still good category, Patty Jenkins has signed on for Wonder Woman 2 and is now the highest paid female director ever, which is great. I mean, not surprising, but great. Good for her. Good for women.
Yes.
Good for women.
Yeah.
No, I think it's a good development. It was sort of inevitable.
Sure.
They would never have allowed the optics of her not directing that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
It wouldn't
yeah.
have happened.
No,
like
there's no
people
way.
kept suggesting it's like she should go direct Star Wars, and I'm like, no, DC would not let her
No,
do
there's
that.
no
Like,
way.
If DC was really is like just not incompetent, but is as incompetent as some
The
of
movies might
fanboys
suggest.
say, so I was trying to be nicer than that. Then they would have not hired her back and then just replaced her with a man.
Yeah, but like the too much of the discourse around that movie was built on Jenkins and
Yeah.
about a female director, and it was
Mm-hmm.
too much of a success for them to go otherwise. But by all accounts, the deal is not just salary, but also back end participation,
Yep.
which is historically not made for women directors because they're not given the opportunity to direct type of movies that involve that. So she stands to make a considerable amount of money, and I'm very curious to see what that movie looks like, and as we were discussing previously, where it ends up, because it's currently scheduled a week before episode 9 is supposed to come out.
Yeah.
Because episode 9 wasn't supposed to be there, and I have a feeling that'll probably end up moving at least
I-
a couple
Man,
weeks
Disney's
early.
I'm
got
sure.
balls because Disney's like, well, we got Marvel. Let's put Star Wars right here. Move them off that date.
No, 100%. Like at this point, what's weird about it is that you presumed when episode 7 launched so big at Christmas that they would just keep scheduling in December constantly. But then the Han Solo movie, despite changing directors, is still scheduled for May of next year, despite the fact that Christmas is open. Like Mary Poppins Returns is releasing there, so it's like they have
Right.
space. But now here we are going to go back to a Christmas release pattern, and I wonder if they might end up using that. Because, I mean, look, it's a great corridor. It did well for Rogue One. I like going to Star Wars movies at Christmas. I'm not going to lie.
Sure.
It feels good. Brings back
I
Lord of the
say
Rings memories.
Launch it in January. Just nothing. They'll make all.
Hey, it just made
Everyone go.
$123 million in September, so anything is possible.
Yeah, there you go.
It's a whole new world.
Yeah, I mean, well, it is though. It feels like it as far as like movie releases.
What
because,
is it?
Not it. Not it.
We're not ready for it
Not
yet.
it. Not it.
This is
Never.
going to be a really confusing night.
No, but it like growing up and beyond growing up. I
Yep.
mean, it just seems like up until just very recently, it was you had your summer season,
Yep.
and you had your fall Christmas movie seasons, and that's where your big tentpoles were released.
Yep.
And then it slowly kind of started with like 300 and some of the others kind of coming out in March
Sort of starts
and
to
then
grow.
They
Furious 7.
guy with the
But-
the movies that look good but have no substance. He starts putting his movies out in March.
Oh, that guy.
What's his name? Batman versus Superman.
Zack Snyder, yeah.
He starts putting his movies out in March and kind of stay.
Ooh, when does Giant Monster Man do his movies?
and the Giant
Giant Mechanical Monster Man.
Ultraman?
No, everything is. Oh, the Turtles guy, and then he did Transformers, and
Michael Bay?
yeah,
He's a summer guy.
He's
He's
a summer
still
guy.
summer.
Yeah, he's July. He's
smashy,
But
big,
I mean,
big smashy
then
monsters.
the Fast and Furious films
July
started
4th.
releasing in March and April,
And then they were
sort
doing
of
big,
pushing earlier.
And then Deadpool was like, "Screw it, nothing
Yeah.
comes out in February." Well, we do, and it made so much money because
we
of
saw that
guy.
on Valentine's Day.
Yeah, 'cause
Yeah.
that's the weekend it came out. It was
Counter-programming.
It's one of those things where it's like, and so obviously it, and has sort of transcended that in a lot of ways.
What,
but
Deadpool?
yeah, but what I would say at this point in terms of dealing with that scheduling is, I think Wonder Woman right now being in December, they wanted to take that Christmas box office
Yeah.
spot, and I think now they have to start pushing back to Thanksgiving. Seeing if they want to push forward, depending on what their timeline is. I think they want to get that movie out sooner than later, to be honest with you. I think they want to kind of strike while the iron is hot
Yeah.
and to deal with the backlash when Wonder Woman isn't enough of the part of the next movies.
It's gonna be terrible, though. If I don't think they were prepared for the backlash if they do this wrong.
Yeah.
If they
Yeah, they're
release
fine.
a sequel and don't capitalize on it, but
I think it'll work.
All right. Well, so a quick update from Facebook. Nobody joins me on Starcorn, so you win. Moving on.
death to Starcorn.
No, Starcorn is a great idea. I'm seeing a mockumentary on agriculture
Yeah.
in the Star Wars universe.
Starcorn.
I think it'd be fabulous.
I'm eating Starcorn.
No, but there's no lyrics.
Guess what? I'm pooping.
No, stop. What are you doing?
Starcorn.
Oh, that. Although, set up for a sequel on plumbing. Plumbing that exists in the Star Wars universe.
We've gone too deep.
Starly.
All right, no, we're down the rabbit hole.
We're too far.
Or something. All
Okay.
right, next up. Today on our Facebook page, and I believe it was also tweeted, we shared a trailer that dropped today that we're all very excited about. The Disaster Artist. I made them stop talking about it before the show started because they were going to
We
burn.
did.
They were going to burn up all their talkings, but I have a feeling that's not going to be a problem. So let's see. Let's start with Matt.
In 2003,
He was ready.
while Lucas had just made it viable for these gigantic digital cameras to be used to film movies. They had wires coming off of them that were terrible. And this idiot used one of those cameras, bought it, and also used a 35mm traditional film camera.
All right.
Just in case. So I like how Matt literally just picked up our existing conversation in media
Yeah,
res.
he did.
So we didn't even bother contextualizing what we were talking about. We were talking about the camera work. Like, basically the story of how The Room got made is insane. And the book about it is
bought two
equally
cameras.
insane, but also grounds it in the inherent humanity of the story and Greg Sestero as sort of a tag-along on Tommy Wiseau's magical journey.
And I kind of started off with no context like that.
He just,
Because
he did.
every-
He just picked up.
Because whenever you read anything about The Room, that's how it feels.
A little bit, yeah.
It just feels like, oh my god, this is surreal. The fact that he took like something insane like 150 takes to just come out of a and then see now we're
On a
down a
fake
rabbit hole
rooftop
because now
and-
he's on
yeah.
a fake rooftop that they built in a parking lot
That they built with green screen around it, despite the fact they could have just found a rooftop.
I think it was only on my second viewing though where I'm watching it and I was like, I think they green screened the top.
Oh,
of
I
the roof.
100% noticed the
And
green
then I
screen because I'm
realized-
broken inside and always notice it.
And then I realized they're
Yeah.
just going into a small shed.
Yeah.
There's
It's
no
the
stairs there.
the experience of I'm very curious because like the reviews out of TIFF, Toronto International Film Festival right now seem very good. People seem very supportive of the film for people who are connected to it.
You said Toronto International.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's interesting for me though, at the heart of it, is like how much will it capture the experience of watching The Room when you watch this movie? And because ultimately there are going to be people who see this film who have never seen The Room. And to me that would be the weirdest thing in the world.
That would be
Right?
weird.
That
'Cause
you're
you
trying to
haven't seen
I
it,
have
right?
not seen
No.
it.
You've
So
got-
you
you've
got to
gotta
be
see
their
it.
test case.
Do we want to do that, or do we recommend
They,
that
you know,
someone
we
watches?
do that sometimes. We keep me the newbie.
Yeah, like you use that because, like, to me, at the core of it, having seen The Room and read the book and really been immersed in it.
Well, now I want to read the book, but okay, I'll wait.
But
I'll
yeah,
wait. I'll
yeah,
stay.
I feel like
I'll
you
stay
know, limited release in
unadulterated.
December, you can make
It's
it work.
such a good read though.
Yeah, you'll figure it out. Get
Okay,
an audiobook
all right,
sometime, and
all right.
everything will work out fine.
It's on
Leave-
Audible.
leave me. All right.
I listened to it, and Greg Sestero reads it, so it's actually a great audio read.
Well, Ezra is excited. Will Harris does support Starcorn.
Thank you, Will.
He says the plot of Starcorn has to involve galactic harmony.
Don't
He was a little late.
Will.
Thank you for
Stop
encouraging
it.
us, Will.
Will
Matt does not thank you, but
Will
we are
saved
very, very
Starcorn. He saved it.
Okay,
Do you see what you've done?
Now
so
we're,
yeah, that
we're-
sounds like news. Exciting
yeah.
news.
No, we're
Go.
back on Starcorn. We need to move. That's the sign to move on. Okay, so we'll start with Miles here.
By the way, I'm more excited for I just had to add this. I'm more excited for the Disaster Artist than I am for episode 8. 100%.
All right.
I also live
Yeah.
in a world where I know that I'm going to see episode.
Yeah, I mean,
8
like I'm
also.
going to see both of these motion
Yeah,
pictures.
exactly. So it's not like a Sophie's Choice kind of thing.
Yeah,
But I am
yeah,
more
fair. No,
excited
that's fair.
for Disaster Artist.
Respect that.
All right.
What's the next news?
Fair enough. According to Stan Lee, he recently did a panel or an interview or something. Where was it? Maybe it was Dragon Con.
That sounds right.
Sounds
Yeah.
close enough.
That
He
sounds
was
like a thing that
talking.
happened.
He said that Leonardo DiCaprio expressed a desire to play himself, Stanley, in a biopic, which is interesting because we just heard that Leonardo DiCaprio is going to play the Joker, which is preposterous.
Yes.
So
This is not as preposterous as
this
that.
is less preposterous. I think it. I don't know. It's Leonardo DiCaprio is such a good actor.
This is going to be a dark comment, but I'm going to go with it. I don't know if we'll get a Stan Lee biopic before he dies.
Well,
No way.
Right? Like, I feel like
There's
at
no
this
way.
moment, he is still sort of a very active part of the cultural imagination in a really interesting and unique way. And I feel like to go deep diving into that at this point seems almost unnecessary. Like, why do we need a biopic to understand Stan Lee when Stan Lee is such a part of our culture?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And
And
he's also a guy that plays like a kind of a trumped up version of himself anyway.
He always
so-
has.
and he
Yeah.
always has. And so I mean, what is? It's gonna be called Excelsior, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I don't-
100%.
I'm out.
And so I feel like we don't really need this. And I mean, again, what is like expressed interest? Was it that Leonardo DiCaprio met Stan Lee at a party once and said that somebody once asked me to play you? Like, what was it that came up? Okay,
My bigger
Matt has
question
an
is
idea.
why was I not at that
Or-
party?
I'm gonna take it back. Maybe I do want to see it. You think they're gonna go? Do you think somebody's gonna go, like, really tell the story of Stan Lee, like all the
That's the
garbage
other
he
question.
did to Jack Kirby and the?
This is where we're at.
Well, there
'cause,
has
like,
to be something. There has to be a conflict. There's got to be.
You'd say that, but many biopics do not successfully create that
Yeah.
conflict. Many just kind of tell a very surface level story and don't dig as deep as they need to. There's a very
Walk the line.
what I would argue.
Walk the line, yeah.
What I would argue
Okay.
in this case is that you have an example of history that is complicated that could be
Yeah.
dug into, but as long as this would be produced with Lee's involvement or with the involvement of his estate
Yeah.
and life right issues, you have to think
They're not
that
gonna want to tell that story.
no, they're not going to want to tell that story. And so the question of how do you canonize his history is going to be an interesting one. I think it will happen. I do think at some point they'll make a biopic of Stan Lee. There's too much,
Especially
in
after the
that
last few
history.
years where comics have gone mainstream and Stan Lee is the guy when you think of mainstream.
He's the guy who did
comics.
that. Like, and that may or not be true, but that's the expectation that has been placed
Absolutely.
in terms of cultural reputation.
Absolutely. I mean, 'cause
So-
if you think about it, he hasn't done anything of real note since the 70s, maybe.
It's just
I
the
mean,
kind
you
of
have the-
cameos
yeah,
and the culture.
and
that
he
he's
tries to-
representative of.
like,
that.
I created this character. He's Scotch Tape Man. It was like,
The whole X-Men, the whole X-Men origin, reinforcing the metaphor of difference and kind of pointing to that. He's been a
Yeah.
big part of it, and that's all good, right?
Yeah.
And I think Leo could play him. The resemblance is there at a certain
Yeah,
age,
yeah.
right? Like, it would certainly not be a young.
I think
Stan
you would have
Lee.
to digitally enhance his head, kind of like the what they did in Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland to like the Red Queen.
I
Stanley
thought.
has a gigantic head.
Okay.
No, nobody else thinks he's got gigantic.
No,
I
Okay,
think- honestly-
Starcorn people. Does he have a giant head?
Will Harris.
That'll be one of the themes in Starcorn is the size of heads related to agriculture.
Giant.
We'll figure it out.
It's
What a
the
very-
Starcorn causing it.
All right,
Yeah.
back on Starcorn. Next news item. Futurama is coming back as a radio show. So I read the article because I was so compelled. I mean, you know, I read a lot of what we post, but anyway, I was so compelled to see, like, how are they going to do this? It's 2017. This probably won't come out until next
No
year,
one
right? in
has
September.
radios.
No one has radios.
It's a podcast.
yeah,
it's a
well,
podcast.
it's gotta be. Well, why don't
okay?
they just say
Like,
podcast?
Okay, radio, because radio shows
Because
in
there's a stigma.
particular, there's an aesthetic, and I realize I'm talking about audio, and therefore we're doing something differently. But
Mm.
like, radio show is a genre, right? It's a type of a radio play.
is.
It's a way of telling a story through audio, and certainly a lot of podcasts today, stuff like Welcome to Night Vale, that kind of thing, are very much built off of a traditional radio play environment. And so for that reason, they're kind of hearkening back to that. So they're referring to the genre of the piece and not how people will listen to it.
Exactly.
And I think it's a cool idea. Sure.
It is cool. I
It's
mean,
a fun property.
It's out of the box and it feels in line with sort of the tone and absurdity, I guess, of Futurama, where they
Good news.
yeah they play with that stuff.
Yeah.
So but anyway, it's in conjunction with a mobile game. I think that's coming.
It's a version
out.
of like Simpsons Tapped Out. That kind
Yeah.
of
Cool.
stuff.
So they're doing it for the right reasons.
Yes.
Makes sense.
Obviously, cross promotion.
Well,
They were just saying that we were trying to keep Star Wars from making money, but like we're totally okay with this like app supported like radio show
Yeah.
promotional deal. So hey, look, we like to make money too.
I think it's. I like that they're bringing it out in this format because it's just easier for me not to feel bad when I don't consume it.
Right.
Unlike when it came back on Comedy Central and I didn't watch it there, I
Mhm.
felt guilty.
Oh
Now
yeah.
that it's podcast, I don't feel as bad.
So we're gonna we're
That's
gonna
your a-hole answer for the day.
No, I was waiting on that. So we're catching up on some Facebook comments. Vanessa points out that Stanley is the godfather of comics, which is not wrong.
But what about the size of his head?
But that's not a
Vanessa?
thing.
Well,
Yeah.
that's just you know.
Like I realize that's what he's cultivated very effectively,
But
but,
what-
like not
what-
a thing.
well, what would that? Yeah.
Especially for a man who really did all of his most important work in the early 60s, a good 20 years after like Joe Simon had done all the work on Captain America, and obviously all of the DC characters were created that he had no hand in.
Yep.
It's kind of hard to say, but because I would say he's definitely the chairman, the ambassador.
Yeah.
He's very good at,
Ambassador, I think, is the right
marketing
word.
himself.
I think he might actually be the first comic bookman
Like,
that really got the marketing aspect of it.
He really
Yeah.
he
Oh,
nailed
yeah.
it.
And
no
nailed it.
one
'Cause
is
before
no
they
one is
were-
doubting that, and they could make a very sort of like uplifting biopic about his involvement in that process.
Yeah.
But whether or not,
And I'm not marginalizing him at all.
No,
It's just hard to say, hey, guess who created comics?
So
Stanley
also
says that actually.
Ezra asked, "What would that movie be about?" See if seems like it would be a little boring, and I don't know if he's talking about Starcorn or
No,
the
he's
Stanley.
100% talking about Stanley
I
biopic.
feel like we're
Can we
all
combine
talking about
this?
Starcorn.
Everything to you
because
is now Starcorn.
It is the best idea I've ever had, which is sort of sad
Can I
because
talk about how it was technically my idea at first?
well, I just took that.
Do I get a story by credit at the very
Oh.
least?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Easily.
I'll put it under the
Done.
filmed in Georgia.
Jeez. That's the worst billing you could get.
I know.
The only billing that's under you is no animals were
Yeah, I was
harmed in
gonna
the
say.
making of this motion picture.
Oh, I'm gonna harm
unless
animals. No, I'm
unless
just
you're
kidding.
The Adventures of Milo and Otis, and then you can't use that.
It's so
Oh.
sad.
So many
I
cats.
know. Neil points out that this is late and off topic at this point, but if you guys haven't seen the episode of Tim and Eric's awesome show where Tommy, how do you say it?
Tommy
Tommy
Wiseau.
Wiseau guest directs, I highly recommend it.
I've
I
not
didn't
seen
know
that.
that this existed,
No.
and I'm going to watch it immediately. In fact, let's go ahead and pop. This has been popped. We gotta go watch Tim and Eric.
Will says thrilling adventure hour brought by the old school radio element to podcasting.
Correct.
Neil again says Starcorn Pops would be your cereal spinoff. See, Starcorn is great. It's taking off already. Why aren't we
Neil,
doing it? And Will
Corn pops are kind of garbage too. but yes.
What are you doing to me here?
Will says the Jedi called it maize. We call it Starcorn.
That's it. I'm out.
So no.
I was gonna say you started to read that comment. I'm like, if it's not Starcorn related, what are you doing?
Of course, it's Starcorn related. It's
From
the
now
only-
on, Sarah will only read Starcorn related comments. So if you want your comment to be read, you need to include Starcorn in some capacity.
my buddy Brad has officially made hashtag Starcorn a thing. So
Okay.
no, it's
Making it a thing just means like putting a hashtag in front of the word star and
I
corn.
am
So I'm not going to
tweeting
give
it
Brad
now.
too much credit. I'm just going to say that right now.
Starcorn episode 1
hashtag
is popped.
Starcorn.
You're just going to entirely just that's your
I-
entire tweet.
Yeah, that's all. That's all that we need.
That's all that says it. Do you know what? It
That-
speaks volumes.
It says it all. It's all that we need.
Yeah.
Hashtag Starcorn.
That's fair.
That's life now.
Is there more news
Yes, there is more news, and I will share it with you.
beyond the release of Starcorn?
Oh, actually, we're getting into our big topic, which is good.
Oh.
So the segue here though is a news item. I'm gonna do it with quotes because
Right.
It's
I can't do
also
the
a-
joke that I did on Miles.
right, yeah, the movie murdered all children at the box office and had the biggest opening weekend for a horror flick ever, which is great.
I don't know why you aren't writing for
Weird, right? I
for
will
CNN.
never contribute to the success of that movie.
I could just see Wolf Blitzer now. Next up, It murdered all the children. Who wrote this? Was this Sarah again? Tell her I'm not reading Starcorn.
Starcorn is awesome. Neil says hashtag Corn Wars too. So I'm just saying it's taken off. It's like a thing now. Starcorn. Okay, but
Yes.
so there has been so much social media buzz about it. And it did super, super well. There was a lot of really non-traditional marketing that happened as well. So I got to thinking about how, when Keith and I comb through the internet like you do, looking for topics to post on Popped, which is facebook.com/Popped.
He was actually use a comb.
We do use a comb. I know it takes forever because screens these days. Are
Starcomb.
see, it's intergalactic hairstyling. What are we? Oh my God, there's so many spin-off possibilities. Matt gives up. He gives up on life. But anyway, my point
You
was
see
is
my
that
feet by the end of it.
we see so much reporting on social media buzz about movies. Like this weekend, or we just now posted on Pop not too long before we went live about Mother, the Jennifer Lawrence movie.
You need to pronounce the exclamation mark. Mother.
Mother, garnering all this social media attention, and like Thor Ragnarok is constantly
for our audience.
yeah.
Can you elaborate?
On what Mother is?
Yes.
So Mother is Darren Aronofsky's new horror film with Jennifer
Oh,
Lawrence,
okay,
which
okay,
is
okay.
basically like a house guest situation gone
Mother.
wrong. But the film is called Mother, but it's Mother lowercase m and then an exclamation mark at the end.
Okay, well that's not annoying.
No.
At
Okay.
least the word is spelled correctly.
Yeah, exactly.
I hate it when they do MOTHR, or like they leave out vowels.
Or
Yeah.
7. The way they put the
Or
7
numbers.
Oh,
7.
yeah.
Numbers where the
That
E was a
annoys me.
3.
yeah, that's
So yeah, so
That's
so
annoying.
you're interested then in thinking about the way social media sort of
yeah. Well,
impacts our experience, impacts success of things, sort of its general relationship to these media properties.
Well, I mean, my buddy Alex, who is my like movie friend whom I'm tagging right now, so he'll tune in. Was talking about like when I initially asked today, I said, how does social media impact films? Because our buddy Ernie, we did a social media panel on Thursday, and he was like, I don't know what I'm doing, and because of that, I'm left behind. And I'm thinking all these studios have these big like marketing departments, and this is a big part of it.
Totally.
And you and I have talked about all this sort of circular language that gets used. And I just see more and more cases of this has the buzz. But Alex pointed out, he goes, I think Rotten Tomatoes affects it. And I said, well, where do you draw the line?
Okay, here's what I'm going to say on that topic. First of
Okay.
all, Rotten Tomatoes affects nothing.
Ah,
I'm willing.
challenge.
I say that more in terms of it does not create a like statistically measurable impact on a film's box office prospects. If reviews are bad, Rotten Tomatoes did not make that happen, right? It is not the cause of that process. It's aggregating it in ways that make things visible, but the number of moviegoers who completely put all of their trust in Rotten Tomatoes is not so large that it's dramatically
I
impacting
always
the
think
box
forget
office.
about it.
everybody gets
That's
what
a
they're
studio. That's a studio myth that they want to perpetuate to not take responsibility for their own failures. That's fine. The social element, though, is really interesting to me. So I'll say 2 points on this fact. So I get a lot of my box office news from Deadline. They are always the first to update, often late at night for that day's reports. I'm obsessed with box office. I help run a box office fantasy league. This is a huge part of my life. On a
You
number of
run a
levels.
box office fantasy.
Oh my
league.
gosh!
So
You're too young to remember the Hollywood box, the HBX, the Hollywood Stock Exchange.
yeah, so that was a
God, I
thing on the
loved it.
internet. So we
It's a lot of words that you put together.
So we
HSX.
have developed sort of this system. There's 9 of us, myself and some grad school friends, and we all auction off movies every 2 months, and then we invest, and then the results result in our results. And so as a result, I'm reading a lot of Deadline. And the thing about Deadline I find most fascinating is that on their reports, they will dedicate like multiple paragraphs to talking about the social engagement with this movie.
Right.
Where they'll talk about like how many impressions they got across all these platforms. But my favorite thing is they will start adding up the social reach of all the actors in the movie. Where it's just like Reese Witherspoon sharing content from the movie for 15 million Instagram followers. And they're really obsessed with the idea that this type of like engagement is going to dramatically change these movies. And my favorite thing is whenever a movie comes along, so It as an example, right? There are no stars in that movie, right? There is no star who's going to go on their social media page and share with their millions of followers, hey, everybody, I'm in It this weekend, come out and see it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what Deadline likes to do is they like to call these people, so Bill Skarsgård, who plays Pennywise, they call him a non-social star. That he is non-social. And that this is like the blackest mark you can give a person.
Yeah.
That this
Dun, dun,
person
dun.
is not taking on the responsibility on them to use their fame to leverage that as a marketing perspective. And that to me is where we start to get carried away with what social media can or should do in these environments. In terms of what that looks like and kind of what kind of buzz you're trying to create. Like when I see an actor post on social media, hey, go see my movie this weekend. I'm not like, oh, now I need to go see that movie. I'm
Yeah,
like,
that's
that's
fair.
an actor using their social media account to market to me, and that doesn't really affect me.
You know where I see that a lot is Reddit, when they'll do like AMAs to promote their movie. And if they're doing an AMA, it's because the movie's kind of crappy.
Or sometimes they're just looking for like mixed marketing opportunities, finding different opportunities. To me, though, there's a difference between an AMA. So if Will's in the chat currently, Will does random roles interviews for the AV Club, which are these like deep dives into an actor's career. And they often start with the movie they're promoting, because that's ostensibly why it's happening, but then they dig way deeper. A great Reddit AMA is one where an actor like starts about their movie, but answers all sorts of random questions and really
Right.
dives deep and sort of really engages.
Sure.
A bad AMA is when they only answer questions about the movie that they're in.
and
And
it's
that-
pre-canned, and you know it's not actually them.
And that mirrors, the same thing that would happen, especially, and I guess you don't see them in as much now because radio doesn't exist. But whenever there would be radio interviews,
Late night talk show interviews, same deal.
So you've got those stars that'll come on and they'll just be the worst interviews because they don't want to talk anything but their movie. And with radio, it would always be a little longer form. So a lot of times you'd get those guys in that would be like, I want to stick to the script, but then they could be broken down and then they start talking. They forget, I think, with radio, and that's why I love that medium.
Yeah.
They forget that they're on air.
What I'm wondering then, so like when it comes to social media and this, is what it's trying to accomplish is trying to create something more organic and integrated into our daily lives
Right.
that still gets us out to see a movie. And often it's about that sense of engagement, right? About creating the interactivity, the feeling like you're being welcomed into this process. And so that I think is real. I just feel like the way Deadline talks about it makes it sound like this is now like the science
Yeah.
of like all these details. And I'm like, I don't think we can do it that way. But I want to talk about an example of this gone horribly awry,
Okay.
which is when Cinemark Theaters tweeted at me about it last week. So I got an email from Cinemark Theaters telling me it was in theaters. It being it, the movie It,
Sure.
quotation mark,
It
etc.
was in theaters.
Yes. And the thing about this is like they have all of the data about the movies that I see at Cinemark. I scan my app every time and it goes in.
Oh,
They
yeah,
know I've never seen a horror movie before.
Mhm.
Like ever. And they know I've seen a fair number of movies at those theaters.
Sure.
So to me, they shouldn't have sent me that email where it's like, it is here for you. And I'm like, no, it's not.
Now, do you think that they were sending you that based off, or because they were, one, just ignoring the data, or because they were trying to say, okay, this guy's never...
No,
like, give
I
me
think it just
back
went.
results of people who haven't seen or don't currently,
No.
because we think that we can get them in with this movie.
I think it's September and they're desperate and they sent it to everybody.
Makes sense.
And I just
Yeah,
wish they
October
could
was
have
not a
tailored
good-
it
good
and just
month.
been like, look, you probably are more likely to see Home Again with Reese Witherspoon if you're really going to see something, but here's it, whatever.
Right, and why not use the data? You're
Yeah.
you're getting the data.
I'm willingly
Use it.
giving myself to you in data
Yeah.
form. Like, come on, use that and be smarter. And so I tagged them in a tweet talking about this.
Neil suggests you were just on a bulk list.
Yeah, no, and I know that.
Yeah.
I want to be very clear. But in my mind, I shouldn't have just been in a bulk
Sure.
list because they know
Yeah.
enough about me.
They
They
could
should
have
be able to
used
tailor
the
it.
They
data.
could filter that.
Yeah. They could, they're not, and I get that.
Although Neil says the targeting would be more precise on social media. I don't know.
Here's the
We
thing.
know a lot of demos about our email subscribers.
Yeah.
Not for people who own the app. Like, they should be
Yeah.
able to go in and say,
Yeah, they can get pretty
because
finite.
they're using like probably specialized software.
They've got complex
Yeah,
software to
so
try to
they're
target
like-
people, and they have all sorts of ways to do this.
exactly.
And so, but what happened was I tweeted at Cinemark, and then Cinemark tweeted back at me and said, "You'll float 2 miles."
Oh.
And I was just like,
Autoresponder.
and I'm just sort of like, hey, look, I am all for this in theory and principle, okay? I totally agree that engagement is so great from brands' perspectives, and certainly movies doing that helps to put points of engagement. All for it. But that's creepy.
Yeah.
And there's a certain desperation to it. Like, to me, it's the desperation of a really bad summer
Well-
at the box office where they're desperate to get people out to the theaters. And I wish they would find their chill and not, like, basically suggest that a clown is going to eat me. I would prefer not to have that interaction on social media personally. But I think it goes to that point where I'm just like, okay, I like what you're going for. But, like, you can't step too far, right? There's a point where engagement crosses a line into desperation
Sure.
into feeling like too kind of how do you create something that is both inherently natural and organic and yet also be marketing? And I think it's very difficult to do that, so I don't envy them that job.
No. I mean, yeah, marketing on that level is just it's definitely going to be complex. And now that social media is in the picture, it's even more it's even more complicated. And there's a lot of just let's throw some ideas against the wall and see what's going to work. Now, on the opposite side of things, I think that it is a great movie to obviously talk about this, not just because it's timely, but because obviously something that they did worked. And I think it harkens back to and I have a reason why I think it worked. And I think it harkens back to they had the trailer for it. They know that that number one, you've got the nostalgia factor of everybody going back and pointing back to the to Tim Curry kind of being an iconic Pennywise, and people maybe falsely remembering that miniseries as being a really scary, important thing in their lives.
I'm really not super convinced of that argument, if only because I feel like, I mean, that wasn't that widely rated a miniseries. It wasn't like a true cultural touchstone.
But
I think it's
for
part
some
of it.
reason people
Yeah.
are having false memory, and
Yeah,
that's
that's
not
fine.
quite where I was going with it. But like you said, you've got a smaller movie in scale to it's definitely a September release. It's not overreaching in what it's going for. No stars, nothing really driving it. But what they did have, they had Pennywise. And so for them, I feel like that they took that trailer and they dropped it into Facebook, and they made sure that it really got out there and people started talking about it. And the reason why I think that something they were doing in their marketing campaign was working, is because the amount of chatter and buzz that I was seeing on my own feeds, not from them, but from everyone I know, all of my friends, everyone, you know, who I'm acquainted, everybody I know and connected to on social media, on Facebook, everybody was talking about it. It was like, I'm going to see it. And then throughout the weekend, it was like, I saw it. This was great. This was... And because it's become the new word of mouth.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think in that way, like, so my research in this area is in television. I'm in the process of editing a special issue of an academic journal talking about social TV and its relationship to audiences in various capacities. And so I think the comparative example is something like a Netflix show. Let's take Stranger Things, which is obviously very similar nostalgia-wise, very much pulling from its Losers Club, kind of very similar vibes in terms of how those play out.
The font itself.
Yes, of course. And I think what you see in that example is like Netflix didn't know what they had. They did very little marketing for Stranger Things. That was not a show that was like plastered across billboards.
The only reason I was excited is because I saw an article on CBR and I was like, this looks like it's going to be pretty good. And I think we should probably shared out the trailer.
And so all Stranger Things was sort of like basic nostalgia trailers, like nothing complex. And then a bunch of posters that were also like themed after 80s, like thriller and horror movies. Like that was it. That was pretty much all there was, period. And so the lack of saturation, and honestly with it, that was sort of the same deal. It was clown trailers. It was a lot of news stories about how terrifying clowns are. A lot of people sharing things because they were either afraid of clowns or wanted to terrify people they knew who were afraid of clowns. I think that fear is more primal than I think we maybe realize.
The imagery of that lone red balloon is very, very... It's haunting and terrifying at the same time.
It's basically a theme built purely around iconography, right? Very simple icons, very simple symbols. There's very little character work in any of that. There's no like trailer that's like meet the Losers Club. Here's each one of them individually, right?
There's not even a child orgy anymore.
No, for logical reasons. But I think what you sort of take away from that is that they didn't bog it down, which meant that then social media chatter wasn't trying to deal with complexities or to deal with anything beyond that. It's just basic images that can be reshared, that can be easily interpreted. Also, I think this is also crucial to that point. Like if you're flipping through Facebook and that trailer auto plays, right? It's going to get right to the point, right? Like, you're not going to have to, like, what is this movie? It's, like, scary clown. It's going to pull you right in. And it's, like, honestly, like, I watched that trailer, and I honestly I said to myself, am I scared of clowns? Like, honestly, I didn't know. I hadn't tested the theory. And I watched the trailer, and I'm like, no, I don't think I am. I did not find it that horrifying.
I'm not, but you know what, though? What they did have going for them, and we kind of touched on it, is that the scenes that they picked were very, very compelling and they were visually interesting. Obviously the scene where they're watching the slides, they get faster. That's interesting, and it's also, and I don't know if it's, and I guess it's by design. I'm going to give them the credit and say it's probably by design, but that's going to make you stop scrolling if you see that.
No, I think it's one of those cases where like everything that I've heard about the film from people who've seen it said it's incredibly well made. Right? This is not like a cheap horror film.
No,
it's $35 million budget. Like, this is more on an upper echelon of that process.
Spend it on stars.
No. And so you know that it's spent on the effects work. It's spent on the visual design. It's spent on the production. It's spent as a way to work through this. And, look, and I think the other thing about it, too, that's important is we live in an era where I think a lot of social media buzz is trying to desperately turn things into franchises. So let's take The Mummy as an example, okay? So The Mummy is...
Just don't make me watch it again.
I didn't even see it.
Funny story. I won free tickets, and I made Matt go.
Okay, so that happened.
Sorry.
I'm sorry for that.
He took one. He literally took one for the team.
So what happened,
He
though...
took The Mummy for the team.
...is The Mummy... On social media, they weren't just trying to sell that as Tom Cruise in an action movie fighting against these people. They were trying to sell it as the start of the dark universe, right?
And every article
article is pushing all the social feeds. Everything is really trying to emphasize that this is the start of a franchise and try to get you invested in that. And I feel like with it, this is technically the first part of 2, and yet none of the marketing talked about that. Like, I honestly haven't read the book. And so I knew it was kind of split in a way, but I didn't know how logically it was split between the kids and then when they're adults again.
It's very definitive. The
book
it's very definitive. It's they're the first to have is them as children and then them revisiting.
And if you've read the book, you know that from the trailer, right? Obviously, they're only doing the first half of this.
Oddly,
But-
no adult orgy.
Yeah, you think that would have been the
You'd
easier
think
path,
that would have
but
been the easier
Steve
play.
Steve didn't go that way. But
Never does.
what I would say though is that they didn't try to oversell this as the horror event of the year or the start of an epic story.
Yeah, they were subtle with it.
Yeah, they just kind of moved with that, and I think that's sort of a lesson where you say, like, when you let the rest of social media take something over,
Let
the
it take it over.
absence of information might be the most powerful thing you can do to simplify the messaging and help it amplify in that environment.
You mentioned how you get the retweet back from Cinemark, and
Yeah.
it's they're using the iconic float line. I feel like with social media, and especially with younger people today, they need a higher trust factor, and when they feel like something is being pushed on them in a non-organic way, they're going to push back on it. So for something like that to kind of be like, you float, that's a misfire.
Yeah,
But for them
Find
to
your chill.
get their friends talking about it,
Yeah.
and because that's the magic. Because if you can get all of your friends are talking about it, it's going to start to seem like, well, I don't want to be left out. You get the peer pressure thing.
Well, Alex said the first thing that they did was just post a picture of Pennywise in makeup. And he said the reveal was sort of it, and it took off. And Ezra points out that,
Feel was it.
that was it.
that was it. The reveal was it. Yes, that is what.
How are they going to reveal Starcorn
Well, I think we'll save that secret for the
for Pop Secret?
See, you're joining. You're coming around.
You're wearing me down.
I am. Starcourt is a great idea.
It's because you broke me.
I
a few
did. I
seconds
know. I
ago.
shattered your
That's
spirit.
what we'll sell.
Yes.
Pop will sell Starcorn.
Done. All right. End transmission.
I'll
we got
take
this
a
figured
box.
out. But back to something that is actually happening. Ezra talks about how there's this sort of like insistence on, well, not insistence, but I guess hope to become viral.
Oh,
And then-
virality.
And then you sort of, which is such a, I
Well-
can't even start on that anyway. But then you compound your advertising. It's like the best investment ever because everyone advertises for you.
Well, and just to that point, like in an academic realm, we often sort of move against the term virality because it implies that it just sort of happens. Like a virus spreads, right?
Right.
It spreads with a random cough and germs is floating through the air, etc.
Sure.
But like it doesn't. People have to do this. People have to have a reason to share it. People have to be compelled to do that. No one's going to click on a viral video. They're going to click on a video and make it viral
Exactly.
by nature of actively spreading it, taking that next step to share it and give it to somebody else. And yeah, I saw a lot of it content on my feed. My students seem to be very kind of hyper connected to it
Yeah.
as something they wanted to see. And to be honest with you, like that makes no sense to me because I don't do horror movies and
Sure.
nothing about this stood out.
Mhm.
But I feel like there's a certain primal nature to this story that can't sort of be, it's not high concept. It's not doing anything over the top. There's not like, what is this doing over the last movie? There's a purity that I think just resonated. And the thing is that I don't think the social campaign created that. I think it's part of the film itself.
Yeah.
Like you kind of have to work with what you have. But they also didn't try to work too hard to turn it into a blockbuster.
Right.
And I feel like if they had, we would not be having this conversation right
That's
now.
true. If you ask for it, you won't get it. By the way, one kernel at a time. That's how you market Starcorn. Will's my man tonight.
I'm back on the opposite side.
Oh, we lost him.
Oh, this
Uh,
is
Well, it's interesting because you hear a lot of talk of well, now that we've all got giant screen TVs in our home and we can not just replicate in a lot of ways, we can produce a better experience than movie theaters. There's a lot of talk. Well, how do you get people into a movie theater? And I think with something like it is the prime example of what people want to go to a movie theater to see because they want that shared experience,
like
in the dark with strangers, all experiencing the same thing.
the critic Matt Zellwer Seitz was going on a Twitter stream about this where he saw it and there was a lot of people reacting around him, right? Talking at the movie and like really reacting, kind of moving from it. And he's just like, this is a perfect movie for that.
Sure.
Right? It's built to have people reacting to it and sort of talking through it. And it's like, I've had similar experiences. You mentioned Hidden Figures. Like watching Hidden Figures with a predominantly black audience was a transcendent experience because they were reacting to these moments in a very different way, in a very sort of active capacity. So to see that in a place like Norfolk, I think was very exciting compared to if I'd seen it in the middle of nowhere.
Well, and especially with it happening.
Nearby. Like context matters, and I feel like with it, horror is a good genre for that. But let's face it, like horror has always been a solid genre. Like even in like blockbusters kind of fail, but horror movies, low budgets, tend to perform fairly effectively. Earlier this year, both Split and Get Out, right, sort of demonstrated the value of sort of these kind of like horror-based sort of films with different twists and different turns. Both of those films were made for almost no money. Both of them made upwards of, $275 million worldwide.
One of those films probably better than the other.
Yes, 100%. But like it ultimately will end up performing like I expect it to make between $550 and $600 million worldwide.
Wow.
And there's no precedent for this. Nothing has ever performed like this before. And I feel like what's going to happen now is all of the social media marketers are going to go look at that campaign and try to figure out what did they do? What did they make happen, right? And they're going to try to figure, okay, what was that strategy? What does that look like? And to be honest with you, like, I don't know, looking back, if I would say, like, oh, yeah, that's what their strategy was. I almost feel like I didn't see it. Like, whatever the strategy was not obvious to me.
As a marketer, it doesn't feel even smart to do that anyway, because when...
Well, have you ever, like, been on...
Well, the audiences are so different, and the content is so different, and you know...
They're still going to do it, but
always get in trouble when you do that.
Yeah.
It's like the old trope of everybody wanted an R-rated superhero after Deadpool did well. Well, it's not going to work for everybody. I don't want an R-rated Superman. I don't even want a PG-13. I don't even want a Superman movie.
Let's talk about, though, a film that was brought down because of social media. So, A Dog's Purpose, right?
Yeah. By brought down, you mean it made like $190 million worldwide, but yes.
Well, you know what I mean.
Yes.
Like
that faced a backlash.
It's really hard for movies to fail.
Yeah, it really is. But
by the way, Dog's Purpose, huge in China.
Really?
Huge box office in China. Huge hit. Couldn't tell you why. But they're just really big on dogs right now.
They have a lot of those.
No, whatever it is you're going to say, stop it. I don't trust whatever the next words are coming out of your mouth. The point is that the film itself, it had that sort of like emotional heartstring tug based on all the trailers, and they weren't anything special, but they knew what they were doing when they cut the trailers.
I like Britt Robertson a lot.
And then this video of some behind the scenes stuff where the dog was shooting the scene and it like was edited
basically it was taking a scene in which the dog was being put in the water and the dog certainly was not having a good time, and I think that's fair to say.
But that dog's got a job.
But that dog was in the midst of shooting this. They didn't show the beginning and ends of it. They just kind of took part of the middle. Yeah. It was probably not ideal circumstances, and I certainly hope that the people involved revisited their campaign.
Got a job.
But at the end of the day, by all accounts, when you see the full footage, like the shots directly before and after that, the dog was perfectly fine.
And you don't see like all the hugs and like the praise.
Yeah, and the dog was leaping into the water.
But everybody saw this quick video on Facebook. It went across all their feeds.
Yeah,
people started launching boycotts and people launching on this. You can't control it. The whole message of social media around a movie is that you can't control it. And I think that's the whole issue with anything. Rotten Tomatoes, any of these platforms, is that once a film gets out in the world, the people marketing it lose control of that narrative. And so bad buzz does what it does.
Right.
And so Batman vs. Superman, that movie was not killed by social media. It made like $770 million worldwide. Like, no way moving through. But you then look at Wonder Woman, and it's like, well, why didn't that happen to our movie?
Right.
And it's because your movie wasn't built to sustain that type of conversation, right? It was inherently ugly and inherently dark and never really sort of connected on that level. And so what I think you point out with The Dog's Purpose is that movie was trying to be uplifting and heartwarming. It wanted people to share the trailer and just be like, I love my dog so much. Instead it was the exact opposite of that, right? They saw the complete inverse. And so I think it's a really good contrast of what they are trying to achieve versus what they do.
Sure.
But the lesson in that process is you can't control this.
Well, Alex pointed out that corporate studios and the marketing departments always sort of glean the wrong lessons from
everything.
From any life experience, really.
Everyone.
So that, I mean, I think that's a good point too, because as a marketer, I could look at case studies all night and day, and then my next campaign really shouldn't even mimic anything that exists. I mean, I've got my favorite brands and my favorite campaigns and my favorite ads
Sure.
and my favorite
Yeah.
examples of viral marketing, and none of it is
Well-
something I could replicate authentically.
Well, it's interesting to me, though.
and I
'cause-
shouldn't anyway.
Should
No.
the Budweiser "What's Up" campaign should that have ever caught on ever? It was terrible.
No, probably not. But I think what I would say, why is that?
So
Okay.
lead sponsor for Starcorn.
Oh man, I just blew it.
What
How
I
much
would
are they
say-
giving us?
What I would say, though, at this point is that the question too is like, well, how do you judge if like how a particular campaign element was successful? So one of the things I always find random and kind of nonsensical is when they'll be like, if this gets 100 retweets, we'll reveal our poster. Have you ever seen this?
I guarantee you'll probably do it anyway.
Right?
It's
And
like
I'm
you're
just
not
like,
gonna
yeah.
have to.
Where I'm just like, and every time I remember once it was like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and they were bouncing between cast members where if enough people, like when each person got enough retweets, their part of the poster was revealed and they would go to the next cast member and that cast member would get retweets and moving through. And I'm just sitting here and I'm just like, this is just exhausting.
If we don't retweet it, will they just never reveal it?
Yeah. Like I kind of want
guess
to, I
we
kind of want to
won.
call their bluff, but like the whole logic is, well, if everybody shares this content where people are aware of it, it's basic awareness, and that's kind of what they're looking for. But I'm just like, I've seen it before with like game trailers where it's like enough people likes our Facebook page or likes this
Yeah.
post or shares it, and I'm just like, when you try to hold your viewer hostage to make them a marketer, right? When you make us
Yeah.
feel like we're part of a process, you want us to feel like we're part of the movie or the TV show or the experience. You don't want to make us feel like part of the marketing team. Because the second we do, we lose that kind of tangible connection to the text,
Exactly.
to the world. And so I think that's where, with it, I didn't feel like there was a campaign happening to me. Even with
Right.
all the content that I might have been seeing, even with the promoted tweets, even with Cinemark threatening me.
Literally.
Literally threatening me that they're
Miles, you're gonna float.
yeah. Even with
Just
all of
kept
that,
tweeting you that.
I felt like it was being propelled by something that wasn't the studio trying to co-opt my
Absolutely.
labor.
Sure.
And even if though they were, right? They 100% were co-opting people's labor. That's totally what their goal was in these circumstances.
right.
It didn't feel that way. And I think that is fundamentally intangible. I don't know how exactly they did it. I don't know how someone else is going to try to recreate it.
Well, when
but-
I think a major part of this, and honestly, for a lot of campaigns, a major component of it is luck,
Mhm.
and you can't account for luck. You
Well,
just get lucky.
There, the luck and like things that happen politically and things that are happening in the world and
Saturday Night Live. Is
I
a
mean
huge,
all
yeah,
that
winner from that.
stuff, comes into. I mean, there's so much context to it. I mean, take a movie like Get Out, which is a great and wonderful, high quality movie, right?
Yeah.
But it didn't have that push that I mean, so much of the success of Get Out came from like referrals and things like that.
Well, I would certainly think that sort
Yeah.
of Get Out benefited from being a film of post-Trump America.
Yeah,
Which isn't
well,
to say that pre-Trump America wasn't deeply racist, because it was.
sure.
But at the heart of it, it's sort of an issue that
That's
felt that much
exactly
more
where I was going
trenchant
with that.
and that much more meaningful. And I feel like, I don't think it is that, like, as a movie in
no.
any way, but I think it's escapist. I think it comes after a really bad summer where nobody went to the movies in August. So it was a clear,
Yeah.
like, demand for that. I also think that on a very basic level, and this is sort of, simple and true, we talk about Rotten Tomatoes having an effect.
Mhm.
It was a well-reviewed horror movie. That gets people to the theater in a certain way,
Yeah,
right?
anything above 30%.
Yeah, it seems
You
like
might as well give it a
remarkable
try.
in a sense. So when you look at a thing like Get Out being so well reviewed, it wasn't just that it got good reviews. It was that it
It's
got
still-
good reviews for a genre that historically doesn't.
Well, how do you market that? Like, how do you market that in a non-organic way? I think it's hard. You just have to go, hey, this is Jordan Peele. You like him.
Yeah.
He's doing this that's relevant. And 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't think that there's a way to really go in.
No.
And you can't. What would your tie-in be?
I think
Well,
what's
they
impor-
do that all the time
Oreos?
with crappy movies.
Yeah.
Like oh my gosh, we were in the car and we had just gone to see Spider-Man and I was talking about that movie that was really expensive to make but totally tanked.
Valerian?
Yeah. And I kept seeing promoted tweets about it and I thought maybe I should see it. And Miles was like, yeah, they got you. And I was like, what are you talking about? So they weren't ever saying it was good. They
No,
were saying that
you should
people
see
were
it.
talking about it.
Oh, that was Book of Henry. that we were
Okay,
talking about with
that-
that.
oh,
where it's like,
yeah.
people are talking about this movie, and I'm just like,
What are
not
they
well.
saying?
Like, and Valerian, like you'd see a commercial with review quotes, but they
Right.
were all from the same review.
And
Right?
it was always like amazing visuals.
'Cause it
if
was,
anybody
by all
says
accounts.
amazing visuals, I'm like, yeah, I can see
Well,
that.
you can tell it from
Well,
the trailer. There,
And I think
visuals.
to the point though,
Nothing
like you
else
talk
going on,
about
huh?
Get Out, right? Get Out, when it was releasing and coming out, right? That campaign was about the social issue commentary. The mixture of what the movie was about working from. It was
Right.
in the subsequent weeks that like really went on to the critical acclaim, because at that point the initial buzz was there. People were talking about it.
Yeah.
It was out in the world. After that, you can then pinpoint in and say, okay, you're hearing all this buzz, but it's also really great. Reviews are good. This is happening. And now they're going to be able to put out the ads that are like #1 horror film ever, like, certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. They can start to pick in on those other things, so that if you didn't go the first weekend, but saw it on all your social feeds, saw it on Facebook, heard it work on Monday morning, right? Everybody was there. You can now think, okay, what is this movie? What's happening? And then you'll see ads that are reaffirming that it's not just successful, it's not just popular, it's now all of these other things. They don't
Right.
need to worry about being organic anymore,
Super validated.
right?
So let's tie it up here. We've got a few more comments. Alex says that the director's cut of BVS is actually a better movie than Wonder Woman. So that is his opinion.
I don't have 3.5 hours to find that out.
I will say it is definitely a better.
It's better,
movie than
definitely better.
BVS.
Ezra emphasizes that luck is definitely a big part of it. And Lee says timing is everything, and and Get Out was like crazy relevant for the time it came out. So
I accidentally went to see the Get Up, and I was like, this isn't a horror
it's
movie.
different
Or to
thing.
Get Down.
The Get Down. Whoops.
You just watched that on Netflix at home and
To
thought
Get
that
Over
was
There.
the same thing. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Next thing you know,
It helps if I remember the name of the movie.
you know what the next movie you're gonna really love is?
What is that?
Starcorn. Starcorn's gonna be a thing. All right, let's talk about why we're celebrating. Why our champagne is popping. Nobody has a reason.
Yes,
Well,
Star-
here's the thing.
Starcorn.
So, first off, we already talked about BoJack Horseman earlier,
Right.
but I was thinking about this in advance, where I'm like, is my champagne popping for that? Because I'm more just like deeply emotionally
Well,
like
you're
dark.
celebrating. What are you
Yeah,
celebrating?
I did get that.
What am I
malt.
celebrating?
Yes.
I think ultimately that I'm celebrating. Oh, now I need to think on this topic for a second. Yeah, I'm celebrating fall TV season being here.
Yeah,
what I would
that's
say.
a good one.
And I say that in part because my friend Todd Vanderwerf at Vox posted an article about how this is the worst fall TV season in recent memory.
Oh,
It's not great.
Oh, I didn't even get into. I watched the Orville last night.
So here's the thing. So
Oh.
so what I'm
oh
happy
yeah,
about,
we've got a review coming from Henry on that.
but what I love about this in context is like I just love fall TV season, new stuff debuting, people sort of like making snap judgments. I'm forcing my students to watch the Orville for an assignment.
Okay.
Did you watch it?
No, not yet. That's my task for the weekend.
I'll just say this one thing. I'm watching.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be.
It's not a comedy. It's not a
Well,
comedy.
I'm watching it and I realize they're just ripping off the Next Generation, but not it's not a parody
No.
of it.
It's literally
It's
just this like weird homage.
A weird homage to it.
Yeah.
Like shot for shot. Like they
The
set their
marketing is
shots
like
up
deeply
like
misleading.
the Next Generation.
All right.
It is almost devoid of humor on purpose. The tone is so weird.
There's a storyline apparently in the third episode. The critics saw the first three. Apparently something in the third episode like blew people away because they're like, this storyline's insane, but it would make more sense if they were trying to say something satirical with it to make it funny. But they're not.
They're
playing it
not.
dead serious. So I'm very curious to see how my students respond to that. And I just love that sense of response of people engaging and reacting to that. So my champagne is popping for the ups and downs of pilot season.
All right. Lee is like, wait, it's not a comedy.
Nope.
All right.
Not a
Well,
comedy.
now we know. Matt.
I mean, they say things that they think are funny, or
Well, that's the one with Seth MacFarlane, right?
Yeah,
You
and
see
The
him
Next
and-
Generation is also occasionally funny.
he does.
Yeah, well,
he does his like.
I mean,
patter.
you get like, Patrick Stewart in the shorty
I
robe
mean,
with the
like,
flute.
the,
yeah.
the way they film the spaceship, the starship,
Oh yeah.
all of it. The hallway scenes, the way that they do that kind of like 3/4, you show the wall and somebody. I mean, it is set up exactly like an inferior Next Generation. It's weird.
What a time to
Wow.
be alive.
It's so weird.
So why are you celebrating?
You want to know what I'm celebrating?
Yeah.
I'm back. I don't know if you could tell by today.
You're back.
I'm back. I think something clicked
Good.
this week, and I think it was going back and doing my show last night and on Sunday.
yeah.
I'm back. You don't have to worry about me being terrible on Popped anymore, the way I've been for the last 2 months.
You were fine.
I was fine, but I wasn't this.
That's true. You are back. It's nice to see you back. I'm happy about that too. I'm celebrating that. I'm also celebrating the same thing that my friend Vanessa is celebrating, in that my loved ones have survived Hurricane Irma in Florida and Georgia. Unfortunately,
prayers.
not all did, but I'm very grateful that it was not worse.
Can I just point out my thing now seems deeply inconsequential?
Oh, sorry.
Well, he's overcome major emotional
Yeah.
turmoil, and nobody's dead. But
And
you know,
I'm
whatever.
just like, TV's cool, guys.
Thoughts and prayers.
Making me happy.
we all,
Yeah.
there's celebrations,
Yeah.
just
You know
highs
what,
and lows.
though? Yours is way happier.
I know yours
No,
is
I
way
guess
happier. We're just like, wow, nobody's dead today. That's good news.
I'm like, I made this through this
Yeah.
very tumultuous kind of summer that I've had.
Real talk.
And I did not kill myself, and I got over, the whole suicidal thing, and I'm fine now. But you know what? Fall TV's cool too.
Well, we got to go start scripting Starcorn.
I
Yeah.
gotta go watch the Orville again. Just
Orville Redenbacher, more Starcorn.
Thank you. I was there
Don't
too, for
You
the
were there,
record.
yeah.
I was there too.
That's happening. Starcorn.
don't forget.
You
to
did that though, Matt. You did that.
follow. I wish I had teed that up for you guys. Normally, I would be on the same page and I would be teeing you guys up for a home run. That was not a case. Follow Popped on Facebook. You can find us at Facebook.com/Pop Show. A lot of you guys know that because that's how you're watching. But definitely go on Twitter and follow us on Twitter. It's also Pop Show. You can always follow us on Pop Show. PopShow.com is up, and you know what? There's going to be a lack of images until we rebuild.
We'll
some
get there.
articles.
We'll get there. Don't forget to check out Neverwhere up in DC at the
Workshop.
Rorschach?
Rorschach. Oh my God, I'm never
The
gonna
Horseshack
get the
Arena.
Horseshack Theater.
The Love
And,
Shack?
The
The
Love
little
Shack.
old place.
Funky little place.
Yeah. Tin roof is rusted. That's what I hear. And
I got that fixed.
go to Local Heroes in Ghent and tune back in next week, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. We will be talking about something fabulous.
Every
as soon as I find
Tuesday,
out what it is, every
8
Tuesday.
p.m. right here on your Facebook dial. Do you have a Facebook
People
dial?
should.
You should.
We'll get a dial.
A branded dial for
and then
Starcorn.
we will start selling branded Facebook dials. That sounds Starcorn.
I gotta figure out how to make the music come back up.
I know. Yeah, you better do it. 'Cause
I think I could do this.
otherwise, I'm gonna start like storyboarding Starcorn. It's gonna be great.
Nope, that's not it.
No.
That is
Let's
corn.
do the
though.
intro. Here's the
You're
corn.
already helping me storyboard Starcorn. This
That's
is
not right.
fabulous.
But that's how we're going out.
Is the popcorn element of Starcorn like the tragic ending where the corn reaches its inevitable demise?
I think it's the happy ending. It's like the highest, like the most.
We're back.
No. We gotta go.
We're done. We're
Yeah,
done.
we're done. We're done.
We don't want other people to get these great ideas.
I know they're ours.
See you guys next week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.